As a cultivator of the edict of life, Old should be very sensitive to the elemental energy of death. Han Shuo was a cautious person and naturally would not say anything. Old's words not only made Donna's party, but even Kaiser and Erickson didn't seem to believe him. Lord Old, if you don't mind, we can discuss it together, Kaiser invited with a sunny smile on his face. That would be great. Hee, I was just worrying about the situation here. Old readily agreed and walked towards Kaiser's party. As he approached Han Shuo's party, Han Shuo noticed that Donna was staring at him vigilantly as though she was ready to deal with Old's attack at any moment. Old stopped in front of Donna and chuckled. Miss Donna, there's no need to be so nervous. I'm just here to take a look at the situation. As long as you don't intend to destroy all life on this continent, I won't do anything to you. If that's the case, then that's for the best. Donna was still very cautious and guarded against Old. She pretended to be relaxed. As cultivators of the edict of life, we are all people who love life. We won't put others to death unless we have no other choice. Hee. The reason why we had such a big fight with those people last time was because they wanted to destroy all life on the continent. My ancestors had no choice but to intervene. As long as you don't have such intentions this time, I believe that both of us will have a very pleasant journey, Old said with a beaming smile. Although his attitude was very gentle, his tone still carried a deep meaning. Donna did not say much and only nodded silently. No one knew what she was planning. Hey, you're Brian, right? Old suddenly glanced at Han Shuo with a look of interest. Han Shuo was startled. He didn't understand how Old knew him. He looked at Old in puzzlement and nodded woodenly. I've heard some things about you from Kelly. Hee, you're quite interesting. Not a bad lad. However, it's a pity that you've chosen to cultivate in the elemental energy of death, Old said with a smile as he gave Han Shuo a few deep glances. Han Shuo was stunned. He didn't know what Old meant. He didn't try to act smart and answer. Donna, Bolton, and Bowen looked at Old with astonishment and then looked at Han Shuo strangely. They couldn't understand why Old would be interested in a nobody like Han Shuo. You're on your own. Old didn't express too many thoughts. He nodded at Han Shuo and walked towards Kaiser and his party with a smile. Kelly, who was behind him, exchanged glances with Han Shuo, forced a smile, shook his head, let out a sigh, and followed Old. On the other side, Erickson didn't look too happy when he saw Old walking towards him. He let out a soft groan but didn't voice his dissatisfaction. On Profound Continent, the Shrine of Ice and the Druidic Order had been fighting openly and covertly for a long time over the supply of believers. The grudges between the gods and the mortal world had also affected the gods in charge. It was only natural that they didn't get along well with each other. Come on, let's continue inside, Kaiser softly exclaimed. He then shot a glance at Donna from afar and said, Lord Old, if you don't mind, how about you guide us? No, I'm just following you. Haha, you don't need to mind me too much. Old rejected Kaiser's proposal and replied smilingly, All right then, let's go. Kaiser didn't insist and took the initiative to lead the way. He secretly gave Erickson, who was putting on a sour face, a few meaningful glances, hinting that he shouldn't spoil the plan at this juncture. The party seemed to have suddenly forgotten the existence of Donna, Han Shuo, and the others. They headed straight for the 9th Realm Mysticaline Harvester. Han Shuo, who was standing beside Donna, could tell that Donna heaved a sigh of relief when Old rejected Kaiser's proposal. After Kaiser and his party had walked some distance away, Donna solemnly instructed the few youngsters behind her, this time, if it's not necessary, try not to provoke that Old. He's notorious for being a troublemaker. As long as he doesn't make an enemy out of us, we don't have to worry about him. It was evident that Donna was very wary of Old. The group of haughty youngsters also expressed their agreement after hearing those words. It appeared that they all knew about Old's background. Among the party, Han Shuo was the only one who knew nothing about Old. He couldn't help but ask, Is this Old very difficult to deal with? Donna forced a smile and nodded. She explained, Old is notorious for being a busybody. His strength is also extraordinary. In our Elysium, Old is a very strange fellow among mid-gods. Generally speaking, he won't be particularly interested in anything. But when he does, He won't let go and won't stop until he achieves his goal. It's a real headache. Elysium. This was the first time Han Shuo had heard Donna mention their background. He was shocked. Han Shuo had heard a little about Elysium through various channels. Both Bichimos and that person inside the Holy Grail had mentioned Elysium on more than one occasion. According to Han Shuo's understanding, Elysium should be the highest level material plane out of all the material planes. Legend had it that Elysium was the material plane where the supreme creator deities resided. The elemental energies on Elysium were denser than any other material plane. It was the most suitable place for gods to comprehend elemental edictal energy. Elysium had the most energy ores, the most powerful gods, and the most ancient family clans. Legend had it that Elysium was boundless and filled with countless mysterious tales. It was the center of all material planes and the home of the gods. In short, according to what Bichimos and that person in the Holy Grail said, the Elysium was the birthplace of the gods. It was also the central place where the gods of numerous material planes gathered. Almost all the overgods resided on the Elysium. There were all kinds of forces on Elysium. The most powerful forces were, of course, the 12 major forces with overgods. Many ancient family clans pledged allegiance to the 12 overgods. Many of the ancient family clans on Elysium were not only engaged in incessant wars on Elysium, they were also engaged in battles on other material planes. In this vast universe, more than 90% of the low, medium, and high-level material planes were controlled by those ancient family clans and the 12 overgods on Elysium. Having heard so many legends about Elysium, Han Shuo knew what Elysium signified. Now that he had confirmed from Donna that they were from Elysium, Han Shuo finally understood why youngsters like Bolton and Li Wei would feel so superior after arriving on Profound Continent. Elysium. When I finish my business on Profound Continent, I will personally go and see what Elysium is like, Han Shuo thought to himself. Come on, let's follow them. Donna instructed while Han Shuo was making up his mind. Kaiser, Old, and the others were nowhere to be found. Donna, Han Shuo, and the others hastily followed after them. They did not encounter any other anomalies along the way. Following the location that the spirit demon had previously scouted, Han Shuo, Donna, and the others arrived at the 9th realm mysticaline harvester that was shrouded in dense mist of mysticaline aura. Standing there and sensing the extremely dense mysticaline aura in the surroundings, Han Shuo greedily took a few deep breaths. He could feel the mysticaline aura entering his chest and abdomen, slowly filtering through his muscles, meridians, and bones before being absorbed and transformed by his demonic infant. It was a wonderful feeling. As he gazed into the distance, Han Shuo discovered that a few towering mountains and rivers had been moved to this place by someone with extraordinary energy. The marvelous 9th realm mysticaline harvester had been transformed into the most miraculous 9th realm mysticaline harvester. Han Shuo could not be more astonished. Having arrived at this place and looking at the incredible scenery around him, Han Shuo was so impressed by the person who deployed the 9th realm mysticaline harvester that he didn't know how to express himself. Such a vast and majestic project was not as simple as moving mountains and draining seas. It required the alteration of numerous laws of heaven and earth. To be able to accomplish such a magnificent feat, the terrifying strength that Han Shuo dared not imagine was beyond his imagination. This is too miraculous. This seems to be man-made. Who in the world would have the courage to accomplish such a magnificent feat? Old cried out in disbelief. Could it be that some overgod came to this material plane by chance and expended his divine energy to create such a magnificent formation? Kaiser was extremely astonished as he muttered to himself, "That's impossible. Nothing here can be accomplished by elemental energy or edictal force. Perhaps only a few overgods could create such a magnificent spectacle." Erickson said in a deep voice. Everyone shook their heads and smiled wryly at his words. They understood that those overgods would not be so senseless. The overgods had always held grudges against each other, so it was impossible for them to join forces. However, everything here seemed to be made by someone. They racked their brains but still couldn't figure out what was going on. This is too incredible. Donna couldn't help but cry out in surprise as she looked at the towering mountains and rivers that seemed to have been twisted into a strange pattern by someone. Han Shuo noticed that the mountains and rivers were distorted, as though they were transformed by some kind of demonic art. Some of the traces on the mountains gave Han Shuo a sense of déjà vu. However, when he thought about it carefully, he couldn't figure out what was going on. The scene here was beyond Han Shuo's imagination. Han Shuo was speechless as he gazed at the huge ninth realm mystical harvester that was formed by the rips of the earth and the mountains as the eye of the formation. I think that we can only figure out what's going on here after we reach the deepest part. Old suddenly became excited after sighing for a while. Not only Erickson and Kaiser, but also Donna and the others were hesitant when they heard Old's words. Before coming here, they had vaguely learned about the dangers of this place based on what their ancestors had told them. Therefore, they began to worry about their own safety when they heard that Old wanted to enter. Before they even reached this place, they had already been beaten to a pulp by a dozen mystical demons. As long as they used their brains to think, they would know that the most mysterious area would definitely be the most dangerous. Therefore, they didn't dare to advance recklessly. "You fellows, what are you afraid of? Didn't you come here to enter? Why are you all hesitating now that you're right in front of us?" Old sneered. "Let's go." Han Shuo suddenly spoke. He was the first to enter. After entering, he turned around and smiled at Donna. "Come, follow me. I don't think there'll be any big problems." Chapter 656. Surrounding the ninth realm mystical harvester were a dozen or so demonic formations of various sizes. Han Shuo only recognized two of these demonic formations, the Pentacloud Miasma and the Black Gale of Doom. These two demonic formations were connected to each other and formed an intersection leading to the center of the ninth realm mystical harvester. Han Shuo walked into the intersection formed by these two demonic formations. Han Shuo's heroic spirit was greatly appreciated by Old, and he praised Han Shuo profusely. At first, Donna was still hesitant and undecided as to whether or not she should enter immediately. But when she discovered that Han Shuo was one step ahead of them and had already entered one of the intersections, she finally made up her mind. She nodded at Bolton, Li Wei, and the others behind her and quickly followed after him. Just as Old had said, their main purpose of traveling thousands of miles from Elysium was to explore that mysterious place and see what kind of miraculous things were hidden inside. It was fine to hesitate for a moment, but they had to take the risk in the end. Han Shuo was the first to enter the Pentacloud Miasma. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath of the murky air in the periphery. He sensed the nature of the miasma and began to ponder in silence. Donna led Bolton, Bowen, and the others to Han Shuo's side. She gave Han Shuo a few strange glances and felt that the way Han Shuo was meditating with his eyes closed was very strange. Donna was puzzled. She gestured for Han Shuo to stop and softly asked, "Brian, are you all right?" Han Shuo opened his eyes, smiled, and shook his head. He looked at Old Kaiser and the others who were standing not far away and said, "Let's go." Han Shuo planned to infuriate Kaiser, Erickson, and the others so that they would follow him into the Pentacloud Miasma. However, on second thought, he realized that in order to enter the ninth realm mystical harvester, he would have to pass through 2 or 3 demonic formations. Even if they didn't follow him into the Pentacloud Miasma, they would still have to pass through some other demonic formations. The demonic formations around the ninth realm mystical spirit harvester should be similar in power. Since no one could avoid it, Han Shuo didn't need to take the unnecessary step of forcing those people to go with him. "Well, be careful. This place is very strange. Don't be careless and get trapped here," Donna warned. No matter how careful he was, it was difficult to avoid falling into the formation. Han Shuo knew this in his heart, so he didn't care about Donna's words at all. He just carefully observed the surrounding situation, and according to his own understanding, he was looking for a way to get out of the Pentacloud Miasma. In less than 10 steps, the surrounding scenery suddenly changed. Colorful poisonous miasma flooded in from all directions in an instant. The poisonous miasma must have been refined using a special method. It was extremely corrosive. As soon as the poisonous miasma came out, A strange squeaking sound could be heard in the air. Careful, don't let your skin come into contact with the poisonous miasma. Han Shuo hastily cried out in alarm. If there were no enemies like Olden Kaiser, Han Shuo might not have cared about the lives of Bolton and the others. However, at present, they could be considered to have a common enemy. If Bolton and the others could stay alive, they would have a slight upper hand in the upcoming battle. With them fighting Kaiser and the others at the front, Han Shuo could ensure his own safety. Han Shuo's cry of alarm caused those people to shriek. The acidic aura of the colorful miasma was very obvious. As though they were facing a great enemy, they deployed various means to form protective barriers around their bodies. Li Wei, Donna, and Bowen seemed to have used divine weapons to completely cover their bodies, preventing the poisonous miasma from invading. Bolton and Colbert, on the other hand, had released their divine energies to form a protective layer to protect their bodies from harm. When the colorful miasma came into contact with the protective layer formed by Bolton and Colbert's divine energies, faint smoke began to rise from their bodies. What a powerful acidic miasma! Bolton was greatly shocked and could not help but shriek. Oh, this thing is so evil. Even my protective divine weapon is corroding. We must get out of here as soon as possible. Li Wei also cried out after Bolton. The miasma had been refined using a special method and could corrode anything. It was even more difficult to protect one's physical body. If not for the fact that Bolton and the others had used the same method to cover their bodies, their skin and bones would have rotted away, and they would have turned into puddles of blood. Han Shuo also acted as though he was facing a great enemy. He hastily deployed a protective shield. An oval-shaped shield as thin as a cicada's wing enveloped his entire body. With the protective shield powered by demonic yuan, Han Shuo was as steady as Mount Tai. He was not corroded by the colorful miasma in the slightest. Astonished, Han Shuo suddenly felt that something was amiss. According to the description of the pentacloud miasma in Chu Kanglin's memories, the miasma in this place would corrode anything, and there were very few things that could be avoided. Even protective shields were not immune to the corrosion of the miasma. However, when he deployed his protective shield, the poisonous miasma with terrifying corrosive power actually didn't corrode his protective shield at all. This greatly surprised Han Shuo, and he didn't know what was going on. After pondering for a moment, Han Shuo suddenly thought of a possibility. Did the person who deployed the pentacloud miasma tamper with the miasma when refining it? That was why his protective shield was immune to it. Why isn't there smoke rising from his body? Li Wei cried out in surprise again. She pointed at Han Shuo with a strange expression. Following Li Wei's gaze, Donna, Bolton, and the others all wore strange expressions. They were either protected by divine weapons or forcibly supported by divine energy, but they could not escape the corrosion of the miasma. Smoke curled up from their bodies, making them appear as ethereal as immortals. On the other hand, Han Shuo's body was shrouded in a layer of faint black light and was no longer corroded by the miasma. He stood out from the crowd. Brian, why aren't you corroded by the miasma? Donna asked in astonishment. I've cultivated in an unorthodox energy. For some reason, I can actually avoid the corrosion of the miasma. Han Shuo replied with a smile. He knew that these people would not let the matter rest if he did not give an explanation. Ah, interesting. Li Wei giggled. Soon after, she said in a very natural manner, there's still some space over there. Let me in too. My treasure cannot be destroyed by this vile miasma. Upon finishing those words, Li Wei cheerfully walked towards Han Shuo, disregarding whether Han Shuo agreed or not. She arrived before Han Shuo and was about to force her way in. There's no more space. Sorry. Han Shuo did not like Li Wei. As she flew towards him, with one thought, the spacious protective shield around him shrank by a large margin. There was clearly more space just now. Li Wei knew that Han Shuo did it on purpose. She glared at Han Shuo and said angrily, there clearly wasn't. Han Shuo lied through his teeth with a straight face. Stop fooling around. We should leave this place as soon as possible. It won't do any of us any good if we stay here for too long. This miasma is a little too terrifying. Donna chided with a frown. She then led the way at a very fast speed. Everyone knew that Donna was right. Bolton and Colbert, who did not have divine weapons to protect their bodies, were depleting their divine energy with every passing second. They could not wait to leave this dreadful place. The two of them were also the fastest and closely followed behind Donna. 10 minutes later, beads of sweat appeared on Donna's forehead. She became visibly anxious and said, "What's going on? Why haven't we gotten out of this godforsaken place? We are moving so fast. We should have reached the end of the 1,000-mile journey by now. Why are we still here?" The pentacloud miasma consisted of the miasma gas and the pentacloud illusory formation. The miasma gas was mainly used for attacking and corroding everything that entered it. The pentacloud illusory formation was an exquisite illusory formation that made it difficult for those who did not understand the illusory formation to leave. The miasma gas was extremely corrosive. It was depleting the artifacts and energy of those who entered it with every passing second. If one stayed in this place for too long, no matter how many divine weapons or divine energy one had, they would eventually be exhausted. If one could not get out of the illusory formation before then, the final outcome would be to turn into a puddle of blood. Donna was well aware of this, and that was why she was in such a hurry to leave. However, it did not make sense that they had not managed to get out of the 1,000-meter zone after 10 minutes. This made Donna realize that there was something fishy about this. Unfortunately, she did not understand the mysteries of the formation and could only worry helplessly. She knew that something was wrong, but she could not do anything about it. That feeling of helplessness and frustration, coupled with the constant pressure brought by the passage of time, made Donna unable to calm down. "Brian, I beg you, please let me in. My divine weapon cannot be corroded any further, or it will really be destroyed." Li Wei started to panic. Her tone was no longer as confrontational as it was in the past, and she started to plead with Han Shuo. Han Shuo remained unmoved as though he did not hear Li Wei's pleas at all. "Brian, if it is possible, please let her in." Although Donna was distraught, her good upbringing did not cause her to lose her rationality. She pleaded with Han Shuo on Li Wei's behalf. Ever since Donna arrived on Profound Continent, she had shown due respect and importance to Han Shuo. She had even been speaking up for Han Shuo. Han Shuo had no choice but to return the favor. Therefore, Han Shuo, who had been ignoring Li Wei, finally nodded after hearing Donna's words. He slightly expanded his protective shield and used his two hands to create a slit that would allow one person to pass through. Li Wei was overjoyed. She gracefully flew past the slit that Han Shuo could create and stuck close to Han Shuo. "Oh, there seems to be some space," Donna softly exclaimed. She put on a pleasant smile and said to Han Shuo, "Brian, I think it won't be a problem to add one more person." Han Shuo was speechless. "Since you're not saying anything, that means you agree. I thank you in advance." Donna pursed her lips into a smile. She was the second person to enter Han Shuo's protective shield after Li Wei and similarly stuck close to him. "No, there's no more space." When Han Shuo saw that Bolton, Bowen, Colbert, and Bolton were all looking at him with scorching gazes, he hastily tried to shrink his protective shield while at the same time preventing them from entering. The shrinking of Han Shuo's protective shield caused Li Wei to make a big fuss. She hastily leaned even closer to Han Shuo. In order to avoid exposing herself to the poisonous gas, Donna had no choice but to stick close to Han Shuo as well. With that, Han Shuo remained motionless while the two women threw themselves at him, allowing him to enjoy the bliss of being surrounded by multiple lovers. Meanwhile, outside the protective shield, Bolton, Bowen, Colbert, and Bolton had to endure the poisonous gas's assault at all times. Bolton and Colbert, especially, were using their divine energy to sustain themselves. Their faces were flushed red, and they looked extremely miserable. On Han Shuo's side, the beauties threw themselves at him as though they were afraid that they wouldn't be close enough. On the other hand, Bolton and the other two were miserably resisting the poisonous gas's corrosion. They were in agony every second. The difference in treatment between the two parties was simply too great. One was heaven, and the other was hell. "There's something strange about this place. I can't find a way to leave this place for the time being, but the poisonous gas's corrosion hasn't stopped. Bolton, Bowen, Colbert, it might be troublesome for you to stay here. Why don't you go back the way you came? We'll call you back when we find the exit. Donna appeared very apologetic, but she had to say that for the sake of the three. The three's faces were full of bitterness as they looked at Han Shuo, who was enjoying the bliss of having multiple lovers. They clenched their teeth and were about to turn back when they suddenly heard Han Shuo shout, "No, you brat, don't go too far. Are you only satisfied if we stay here and die from the poisonous gas?" Bolton was furious. If it weren't for Donna, he would have dragged Han Shuo out to suffer together with him. Seeing Han Shuo hugging the beauties left and right, he was filled with rage. "Brian, they'll die if they stay here." Donna was also a little surprised. She turned her head with some difficulty, her red lips very close to Han Shuo's ear as she spoke. "They'll die if they go back. Haven't you noticed that we've been circling around the same area all along? In my opinion, there's no way out once we've entered this place. I can guarantee that even if they go back, they will never find the end." Han Shuo shouted coldly. He knew that these people did not understand the strangeness of the demonic formation. They were naive enough to think that they could turn back and retreat if the situation turned bad. What? We've been circling around the same path." Li Wei cried out in alarm beside Han Shuo's ear. Her voice was extremely high-pitched and sharp, scaring Han Shuo so much that his protective shield began to sway. Li Wei and Donna hastily grabbed one of Han Shuo's arms and stuck close to him, fearing that they would leave the protective shield. After being reminded by Han Shuo, Donna, who was the strongest among them, carefully recalled and suddenly mumbled, That seems to be the case. There's no way out once we've entered. We have no choice but to walk out. Otherwise, we'll all die," Han Shuo said coldly. Upon hearing those words, the faces of Bolton and the others who still had hope of leaving turned ashen. If you observe carefully, you'll notice that this place filled with colorful miasma has some peculiar patterns. I think that as long as I can find the right pattern, I should be able to leave this place. Han Shuo suddenly put on a faint smile when he saw their faces filled with despair and panic. Chapter 657. What pattern? Why haven't I discovered it? Li Wei was greatly astonished. She struggled to turn her head and look around. However, apart from the colorful miasma that filled the air, she could not see anything special about the place. There's only the colorful miasma here. I can't see anything at all. Is there really a pattern? Donna mumbled to herself in astonishment. Haven't any of you discovered that the flow of the miasma actually follows a pattern? Han Shuo pointed out with a faint smile. The party was dumbfounded by Han Shuo's words. Soon after, they focused their attention on the flowing miasma around them and observed the changes in it. After careful observation, they really did find that the colorful miasma had some strange characteristics as it flowed. The miasma was divided into 5 colors: red, blue, green, purple, and black. The 5 colors did not interfere with one another, nor did they mix together. As they flowed around them, the 5 miasma seemed to have a tacit understanding. Every time, one of the miasma would come over and stay for a period of time before automatically dispersing. Then, another miasma would continue to corrode them. Oh, there really seems to be a pattern. Li Wei was very excited. Then, she looked at Han Shuo, who was right in front of her, and asked, "Could it be that our way out has something to do with the miasma?" "I think so," Han Shuo replied indifferently. The pentacloud hallucination formation borrowed the miasma. As long as they could grasp the pattern of the miasma's flow, they would be able to figure out the way out of this place. "All right, let's all observe carefully." Donna, who had great trust in Han Shuo, hastily shouted. Upon hearing those words, the party who had been stuck in the pentacloud miasma for a long time began to observe the pattern of the miasma, hoping to find a way out of this place. Unfortunately, after observing for a while, they did more or less figure out the pattern of the miasma's flow. However, they did not understand the pentacloud hallucination formation at all. Even if they knew the pattern of the miasma's flow, they could not find a way out. I can't hold on much longer." Bolton's face was flushed red. He had consumed too much of his divine power, causing him to feel fear. Although Li Wei's servant, Colbert, did not utter a word, his aged face was pale and he appeared to be on the verge of death. Li Wei, let's go. Let's give our seats to Colbert and Bolton. At this critical moment, Donna decisively ordered Li Wei. Soon after, she turned to Han Shuo and said, Brian, we should work together at this moment. Taking a deep breath, Han Shuo suddenly smiled and said, You don't have to go out. Why? Colbert is dying. Even if the divine weapon is damaged, I can't just watch him die. I'm going out. Don't stop me. Li Wei said anxiously when she saw that Colbert's face was turning paler and paler. In the distance, when Colbert heard Li Wei's words, a trace of gratitude emerged in his lifeless eyes. When he saw that Li Wei was about to come out, he hastily said, Young lady need not worry about this old slave. This old slave's life is for the sake of protecting young lady and not for young lady to sacrifice herself for me. What are you talking about? If you can live, then live well. Donna berated. I said we don't have to go out, so we don't have to go out. Han Shuo thought to himself that Li Wei wasn't completely devoid of redeeming qualities when he saw that she was so attentive at such a critical moment. Seeing that everyone's gazes were once again focused on him, Han Shuo confidently said, I have found the pattern. Follow me, I will lead you out. Are you sure? Bolton shouted with a mixture of surprise and delight when he heard Han Shuo's words at this moment of despair. There shouldn't be a problem. Han Shuo nodded and instructed, Line up behind me. If I go fast, you go fast. If I go slow, you go slow too. Don't fall behind by a single step. Otherwise, don't blame me if you get lost and can't make it out alive. Donna was not at ease either. Before Han Shuo took action, she asked again, Brian, do you think we can make it out of here before their divine energy is exhausted? Trust me. Han Shuo replied like a charlatan. At such a moment, nobody had any good ideas. But when they saw that Han Shuo was so confident, they came to a tacit understanding and moved to Han Shuo's side one after another. Han Shuo said nothing after seeing that everyone was ready. His eyes glowed faintly as he carefully observed the flow of the miasma. All of a sudden, when the red miasma dissipated and was about to be replaced by a purple miasma, Han Shuo suddenly moved 5 steps to the left. Behind him, Bolton and the others had been cautiously waiting for Han Shuo's next move. The moment he moved, they immediately followed suit. When they were 5 steps behind him, they miraculously discovered that the red miasma that had dissipated earlier had once again returned to their side and began to corrode them. After a few dozen seconds of silence, when the red miasma once again dissipated, Han Shuo suddenly moved again. This time, he moved extremely slowly, step by step, to the right. After 10 steps, the scenery changed. Han Shuo and the others had once again arrived at the place where the red miasma had gathered. At this moment, the group discovered that Han Shuo was actually following the red miasma. They gradually gained more trust in Han Shuo. Before this, the miasma was erratic and would never reappear around them. They had gone back and forth in this place countless times and had never been corroded by just one miasma. Li Wei, who was leaning closely to Han Shuo, suddenly moved her fragrant lips to Han Shuo's ear and softly said, You're quite something. Han Shuo was not affected at all. He calmly observed the changes ahead. Behind him, Bolton and the others held their breaths in rapt attention, waiting for Han Shuo's next instruction. Listen to my command. Everyone, move back. Han Shuo suddenly shouted calmly. Bolton and the others were astonished to hear Han Shuo's words. They did not know why Han Shuo had suddenly ordered them to move back, but at this point in time, they had all pinned their hopes on Han Shuo. They did not say a word, but their eyes were resolute, tacitly agreeing to Han Shuo's command. After waiting for a dozen seconds, Han Shuo suddenly shouted, Move back, 8 steps. Bolton and the others did not dare to hesitate. They hastily followed Han Shuo's command and hastily took 8 steps back. When they came to a stop, they discovered that the red miasma was once again lingering around them and corroding their bodies. How miraculous! Bolton cheered. At this point, He no longer had any doubts about Han Shuo. He knew that Han Shuo had indeed grasped the pattern of the miasma. Dana, who was as close as Han Shuo, could not help but grab Han Shuo's arm. When Han Shuo lowered his head to look at her in puzzlement, she exclaimed, "You really found the pattern." This exclamation was not doubt but affirmation. It seemed that she had truly believed in Han Shuo. Han Shuo didn't reply and took another 3 steps forward. It looked like 1 step back and 1 step forward, but the red miasma didn't slip away from their side from beginning to end. Finally, Han Shuo slowly took 5 big steps to the right. The surrounding scenery suddenly changed. There was no longer any trace of the miasma. At a glance, they discovered that they had really walked out of the mysterious miasma-shrouded place behind them. Thud thud. Bolton and the others followed closely behind and walked out of the pentacloud miasma. The 3 of them were stunned for a moment before they were overjoyed. Colbert and Bowen were still silent, but their eyes were filled with the joy of escaping death. After laughing heartily for a while, Bolton reluctantly walked towards Han Shuo. After pondering for a moment, he stammered, I hope you don't mind if I have offended you before." Thank you this time." For such a proud and arrogant scion of an aristocratic family to humbly thank Han Shuo in front of Dana and the others, it meant that he had indeed made some progress after that near-death experience. Nodding his head, Han Shuo's expression was the same as usual. He didn't claim credit, nor was he arrogant. He said indifferently, "You're too kind. We're all grasshoppers on the same line. If we suffer, we suffer. If we thrive, we thrive." Seeing that Han Shuo did not say anything to embarrass him by expressing his thanks, Bolton did not say anything, but his heart was filled with gratitude. When he put away his disdainful and hostile gaze towards Han Shuo and looked at Han Shuo with a grateful heart, he suddenly realized that it was indeed as Dana had said. There were many things that they could learn from him. For example, Han Shuo did not panic in the face of danger. He was even calmer than Dana. Moreover, he had been silently searching for a way to leave and had never given up. Such willpower and perseverance were definitely nurtured after facing life-threatening situations for a long period of time. Bolton still had such foresight. From the looks of it, Bolton realized that although Han Shuo's strength was not particularly strong, there were some qualities about Han Shuo that determined that Han Shuo would not be an unknown minor character in the future. Bolton was not a mediocre person to be able to come here. After he redefined Han Shuo, his attitude towards Han Shuo underwent a drastic change. "Haha, it's all thanks to you this time. Otherwise, Bowen and I would not have been able to escape this calamity. Words cannot express our gratitude. After this mission, Brian, I hope that you will visit our family as a guest. We brothers will definitely thank you properly." The sudden change in Bolton's attitude towards Han Shuo left everyone dumbfounded. The taciturn Bowen was even more puzzled. He could not understand why his elder brother had suddenly become so amiable. Dana nodded inwardly and shot a surprised glance at Bolton. She thought that this fellow wasn't completely useless after all. After hearing Bolton's words, Han Shuo took a deep look at Bolton. Seeing the sincerity on Bolton's face, Han Shuo pondered for a moment and roughly guessed Bolton's thoughts. He chuckled and said, "There will be a chance. And our family, Brian. You've also saved us. On behalf of our family, I would also like to formally invite you to our family as a guest." Li Wei giggled and similarly extended an invitation. Han Shuo was stunned. He suddenly realized that he seemed to have become a hot commodity. For a moment, Han Shuo was not used to these two fellows who had been hostile to him from the very beginning becoming so cordial. Seeing that Li Wei was still staring at him, Han Shuo continued to prevaricate, "Haha, there will be a chance, there will be a chance. Brian, you're really a big shot. Li Wei and Bolton are famous for their arrogance. I didn't expect them to invite you together." "Haha." Dana giggled and teased Han Shuo. Han Shuo shrugged in a very relaxed manner. With a faint smile on his face, he said, all right, let's take a break. There are more difficulties ahead." After exiting the pentacloud miasma, there was still the black gale of doom below. They were currently at the intersection of the two demonic formations and were temporarily unaffected by the formation. Having gone through the previous round of tempering, The party had more or less exhausted some of their divine energy. Now was not the time to be careless. Brian is right. Let's not talk and rest for a while. Donna immediately agreed with Han Shuo and hastily said. Knowing that there was still a difficult situation ahead, the party did not say anything else. They gathered the elemental energies of heaven and earth and silently recovered their lost energy. Han Shuo was the only one who was unperturbed. As the miasma did not corrode his protective shield, Han Shuo's demonic yuan consumption was extremely limited, and he did not need to spend as much effort to recover. He merely observed Bolton and Bowen in silence. Both Bolton and Bowen cultivated in the Edict of Destruction and possessed late-stage low-god strength. Han Shuo's knowledge of the Edict of Destruction was limited. As someone who never gave up on any opportunity to improve his strength, Han Shuo's knowledge of the Edict of Destruction was too poor. Now that there was a chance for him to observe, he would naturally seize it. Bolton and Bowen unfolded their domains of divinity. Their domains of divinity were filled with an aura of destruction that distorted the space around them. Affected by the Edict of Destruction, the surrounding rocks, air, and space seemed to be destroyed. Under the effect of the Edict of Destruction, the divine energy in their bodies gradually recovered. Han Shuo's avatar of destruction, which was also a cultivator of the Edict of Destruction, was meticulously sensing the traces of the operation of the Edict of Destruction in Bolton and Bowen's domains of divinity. He silently memorized them and planned to give them a try in the future. While Han Shuo was secretly observing Bolton and Bowen, Donna's body had returned to normal. When Han Shuo saw that Donna was the first to recover, Han Shuo hastily withdrew his gaze from Bolton and Bowen. This kind of behavior was a big taboo. Han Shuo did not want Donna to discover his rude behavior. No one would be willing to be spied on while cultivating because it would expose the weakness of one's energy. It was very likely that the weakness of one's energy would be grasped by others and put one in a disadvantageous position. Han Shuo's expression remained the same. He smiled at Donna and was about to say something when he suddenly heard a blood-curdling scream from a distance. That scream was unusually mournful, as though it was the last struggle of a person before death. Han Shuo's brows tightened. Soon after, he said in a mischievous manner, "It seems that some people are in trouble. Judging from the sound, it seems that someone has met with misfortune. This is a great fortune for us. You are the great fortune for us. Without you, we would have met with misfortune just now." Donna looked at Han Shuo and giggled. It was obvious that Donna was in a good mood because of someone's death. Chapter 658. There were many large and small demonic formations arranged around the ninth realm mysticaline harvester in a complicated and intricate manner. From what Han Shuo could tell, those demonic formations weren't weak at all. The pentacloud miasma alone was enough to make Donna and her party suffer unspeakably. It was likely that the others had also encountered demonic formations of great destructive power. A miserable shriek sounded, disrupting the minds of those who were recovering. Bolton and Bowen woke up with a start. Their faces were filled with shock. As though to bring them more surprises, yet another ear-piercing shriek sounded from afar. This shriek belonged to a woman. Everyone immediately knew that the young married woman must have suffered as well. That's too frightening. 2 are already dead. Li Wei looked at the black gale of doom before her with a face filled with panic. When Donna, who was rejoicing in others' misfortune, saw that Li Wei was staring fearfully ahead, the smile on her face gradually disappeared and was replaced by a solemn expression. Donna knitted her brows and pondered in silence for a moment. Then, she suddenly said, "All of you have heard the 2 miserable shrieks just now. I'm sure all of you know what they mean. All of you have experienced the previous perilous situation and should understand that such a mysterious place is full of dangers. I'm certain that the next trial will be even more difficult." Everyone listened to Donna in silence. She took a deep breath and continued, "Perhaps one of us will die like them at the next trial. If any of you want to back out, it's not too late to do so. Although it's not very honorable to back out at the last minute, it's at least a little more acceptable than death. Given the strength of your families, you should be able to bear the consequences. Think about it." The 3 youngsters fell silent after hearing Donna's words. Their faces were filled with hesitation, as though they were having a hard time making a decision. Colbert and Han Shuo, however, did not have such worries. Colbert, who did not value his own death, was prepared to follow closely behind Li Wei. Han Shuo was determined to enter and find out what was going on inside. Naturally, he would not back out at the last minute. Besides, Han Shuo had a certain understanding of the Black Gale of Doom. He was confident that he would be able to deal with it. It's hard to break through without experiencing danger. I want to try again. Bolton was the first to make a decision. His expression was resolute. Even a coward like Bolton dares to go in. Why should I be afraid? Li Wei clenched her teeth and said resolutely. Bowen followed Bolton's lead. He had always agreed with Bolton's decisions, and this time was no exception. Li Wei's death was more important to Colbert than anything else. Naturally, he would follow her closely. Even if he didn't say anything, Donna understood this. All right then, I'll give you a little more time. After a while, we'll enter together. This time, when you die, I will tell your family about your bravery. Your family will also be proud of you. Donna nodded and praised. Without another word, Bolton and the other three seized the time to recover their divine power amidst the tense atmosphere. Brian, I'm suddenly very curious about you. You must have experienced many life and death situations on this continent, right? Donna suddenly smiled. She looked at Han Shuo with interest, as though she wanted to see what kind of person Han Shuo was. Han Shuo stared blankly for a moment. He pretended to think seriously and nodded with a smile. You can put it that way. Low-level material planes aren't peaceful either. You have to fight for whatever you want. Facing death head-on is a common thing. No wonder. Donna agreed with Han Shuo. Then, she suddenly changed the topic and asked, what kind of energy are you cultivating? Why is it so strange? I've been training on various continents for a long time, but I've never come across a similar energy. After a moment of silence, Han Shuo put on a faint smile and indifferently said, it's normal that you don't know about unorthodox energy that can't be shown in public. Hee, it's really nothing. You don't have to be so curious. Donna could tell that Han Shuo didn't want to talk too much about demonic arts. She hesitated for a moment and nodded with a faint smile. She finally stopped asking. I'm rather interested in Elysium. Can you tell me more about it? While the others were cultivating, Han Shuo and Donna happened to be free. Han Shuo was very curious about Elysium and where Donna came from. It was a good opportunity for him to ask about it. Bichimos and the being in the Holy Grail had also described Elysium to Han Shuo. However, as the two had been trapped for many years, their descriptions of Han Shuo were from a long time ago. Therefore, there must be many discrepancies in their descriptions. Elysium was Han Shuo's next target. He wanted to have a more detailed understanding of it before he entered it. It's hard to explain in a few words. Once you're there, you'll understand that it's the center of all material planes. Almost all of the 12 overgods are cultivating on Elysium. From this, you should be able to see the uniqueness of Elysium, right? Donna smilingly said. Han Shuo nodded indifferently and did not ask any further questions. He became even more determined to go to Elysium. Time passed quickly. After a short while, Bolton and the others woke up from the recovery of their divine energy after hearing Donna's shouts. It's about time. I can't give you too much time. Otherwise, by the time we reach our destination, Kaiser and the others might have already beaten us to it. Donna took a deep breath. Seeing that the others understood what she meant, she took the lead and walked inside. Everyone, be careful. It's best to be on guard right from the start. While they were recovering, Han Shuo carefully recalled Chu Kanglin's description of the Black Gale of Doom in order to warn them in advance. After their previous encounter, they no longer dared to look down on Han Shuo, a minor god from a low-level material plane. With Han Shuo's warning, they all acted as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Before they actually entered the Black Gale of Doom, they had already put up their defenses. Han Shuo nodded. He was very satisfied with their cautiousness. He too put up a protective shield and was the second to step into the Black Gale of Doom after Donna. As soon as they entered, they were met with gusts of frigid astral winds. At first glance, They could only see the gray clouds hanging low above their heads, making it difficult for them to see their surroundings clearly. The frigid astral winds carried a frightening power that could sweep away all obstacles. They were like sharp knives. Han Shua looked around with rapt attention, but he couldn't see Donna's shadow at all. After staying in the same place for a moment, Han Shua didn't find any trace of Bolton and his party. This made him realize that the Black Gale of Doom had been operating from the start. Every person who stepped into the Black Gale of Doom would immediately trigger the formation. The surrounding scenery would change drastically, making it impossible to find any traces of others. Han Shua wasn't nervous, because he discovered that the frigid winds and terrifying astral winds that blew past him miraculously went around him as soon as he walked in. They didn't attack him at all. It was exactly the same situation as the pentacloud miasma. With a feeling of surprise, Han Shua sized up his surroundings. He could clearly see that the astral winds and the frigid winds were everywhere. They would only suddenly change direction and blow sideways when they reached the protective shield formed by his demonic yuan. This meant that Han Shua would be safe and sound within the Black Gale of Doom. He didn't need to be distracted by these attacks. Is it because I cultivate in demonic arts of the same origin that I'm immune to all the formations here? This thought suddenly popped into Han Shua's mind. He immediately felt that the reason why the demonic formations here didn't bombard him indiscriminately must have something to do with the demonic arts he cultivated in. With this thought in mind, Han Shua summoned his 2 avatars and flew out from the protective shield. In an instant, the frightening frigid winds and astral winds frantically swept towards his 2 avatars. That kind of power was filled with a ruthless and cold aura. The wind seemed to be able to pass through his body, causing Han Shua's 2 avatars to suffer unspeakably. Han Shua immediately came to a realization. With a thought, the energy of destruction within his avatar of destruction was withdrawn and transformed into the form of the Demon's Lair Edge. Traces of demonic yuan from Han Shua's body circulated within the Demon's Lair Edge. A bizarre change occurred once again. All the frigid winds and astral winds suddenly changed direction and blew around the Demon's Lair Edge. That avatar of death transformed from the skeletal staff only had the divine energy of death in its body. It was constantly being ravaged by the frigid winds and astral winds and was in a very bad situation. As expected, Han Shua understood. His 2 avatars were compatible with his soul and weren't affected by the changes in their surroundings. They quickly returned to Han Shua's body. After testing it out, Han Shua finally believed that as a cultivator of demonic arts, he was completely immune to the attacks of the demonic formations here. Even his avatar of destruction, transformed from a demonic weapon, was unaffected by the demonic formations because it still had a small portion of demonic yuan in it. Based on Han Shua's understanding of the pentacloud miasma and the Black Gale of Doom, he knew that these 2 demonic formations wouldn't stop attacking just because the person who entered was a demonic cultivator or a demonic cultivator. It seemed that there was only one possibility. The terrifying existence who had set up the demonic formations had forcefully altered them so that they wouldn't attack demonic cultivators who cultivated demonic yuan. Without much thought, Han Shua understood that the senior who had set up everything here must have come from the same place as him. In this universe, perhaps he also knew that there wasn't anyone who knew how to cultivate demonic arts. That was why he had set up such a formation here, preventing all cultivators of other energies from entering, but only allowing demonic arts cultivators to enter. Why did he do this? What was the deeper meaning behind it? Han Shua was very puzzled. His curiosity grew stronger and stronger. Han Shua couldn't figure it out no matter how he thought about it. In the end, he decided to put aside all his chaotic thoughts for the time being and decided to explore further. With a movement of his consciousness, Han Shua sensed the location of Donna and the others. In such a place, Han Shua's consciousness, which was cultivating demonic arts, wasn't affected at all. His vision and 2 souls that cultivated in the Edict of Destruction and the elemental energy of death couldn't pry into the surroundings. He couldn't see the real situation clearly. Only his consciousness was completely unhindered and could sense the reality of his surroundings. As his consciousness spread out, Han Shua suddenly discovered that the souls of Dana and the others were extremely agitated and unstable. It was an illusion. Han Shua immediately deduced that not only would the Black Gale of Doom be wreaked havoc by the astral winds, if one stayed inside for too long, they would fall into many terrifying illusions. In the illusions, they would encounter the most dreadful and painful things in their lives. Moreover, the illusions would multiply the effects of these dreadful and painful things on them, destroying their willpower from the heart. In the state of illusions, if they were not careful, they could possibly sink into it forever. Inside the terrifying illusions, they would have to face the onslaught of the astral winds. Even a terrifyingly powerful expert would be reduced to a lunatic within a short period of time and eventually die. Unlike the pentacloud miasma, the Black Gale of Doom did not require any pattern to walk out of this place. That was because anyone who entered this place would immediately face the onslaught of the astral winds and the astral winds. At the same time, they would have to face the most dreadful and painful scenes in their hearts. During this process, if one did not walk out of the dark side of one's heart, it would be practically impossible to move a single step. Naturally, there was no need for the disorienting formation. As his consciousness slowly spread out, Han Shua soon discovered that Li Wei and Bolton were in the most perilous situation. It was unknown what dreadful things the two of them had experienced, but their souls were in utter chaos. It was as though they would collapse at any moment and sink into the abyss. Time was of the essence. Han Shua knew that if he did not act now, Li Wei and Bolton would be the first to die inside. With Li Wei's and Bolton's apologies, Han Shua no longer held a grudge against them. In addition, he knew that in the grand scheme of things, if Li Wei and Bolton were to survive, he might have a better chance of survival. Therefore, Han Shua let bygones be bygones and immediately took action. When Han Shua arrived beside Li Wei, he discovered that Li Wei was screaming hysterically like a madwoman. She was in an incomparably miserable state. Han Shua did not understand what Li Wei was going through. He went over and grabbed her. Li Wei was in a state of delirium and was completely unaware of her surroundings. She was clawing and biting at Han Shua like a madwoman. It seemed that she would not be able to recover anytime soon. Seeing that this situation was going to continue, Han Shua did not hold back. Taking advantage of the fact that Li Wei was unable to organize an effective attack, he knocked her out with a slap. Grabbing Li Wei by the waist with one hand, Han Shua extended his consciousness and rapidly arrived beside Bolton. He saw that Bolton's face was filled with fear, panting heavily as he desperately attacked something invisible. With Li Wei's experience, Han Shua did not hold back either. He knocked Bolton out as well, grabbed his shoulder, and quickly brought both of them out of the Black Gale of Doom. Han Shua returned to the Black Gale of Doom, knocked out Bowen, who was hugging his head and crying, and Colbert, who was frantically running away, and brought them out of the Black Gale of Doom. Once again, Han Shua walked to the side of Dana. Perhaps because she was the strongest, although Dana was also in a state of delirium, her condition was not as bad as the others. When Han Shua approached Dana, he saw that Dana had a mournful look on her face. She cried out in despair, "Don't go! I beg you, don't go!" When Han Shua walked to Dana's side and was about to knock Dana out, Dana seemed to have sensed something. All of a sudden, she embraced Han Shua. Her luscious red lips abruptly came up to him. Before Han Shua could react, she started kissing Han Shua madly. Chapter 659. Caught off guard, Han Shua immediately felt that his mouth was filled with fragrance. Dana was brimming with passion. She was like a completely different person from her usual solemn self. Recalling Dana's desperate cries, Han Shua realized that Dana had lost control of her mind in the illusory realm and had mistaken him for someone else. That was why she acted so rashly. Han Shua did not sink deeper into Dana's passionate kiss. He clearly knew that as Dana kissed him, Dana's soul was becoming more and more unstable. At this rate, even Dana might be in danger. The influence of an illusory realm on a person had little to do with the strength of the person affected. Rather, it forced the person to face the painful past that they were most unwilling to recall. Moreover, The influence of those memories on the person would intensify. Once the person was unable to overcome the knot in their heart, they would sink deeper and deeper into the illusory realm until they were unable to extricate themselves. Judging from Donna's behavior, her mind must have been disturbed by an unforgettable relationship. In the illusory realm, she had mistaken Han Shuo for a man that she could not forget and could not bear to part with. That was why she was acting so preposterously. After a brief moment of astonishment, Han Shuo quickly came to his senses. While maintaining the posture of forcing Donna to kiss him, Han Shuo suddenly slapped the back of Donna's head. She softly fainted. Han Shuo wrapped his arm around Donna's willowy waist and felt her soft and supple body. Without thinking too much, Han Shuo identified the direction and quickly walked out of the formation with Donna. As soon as he walked out of the formation, Han Shuo saw Li Wei, Bolton, and the others staring at him with their eyes wide open. There were traces of confusion in their eyes. Although Han Shuo had knocked them out one by one, he did not use any demonic yuan. As they were low gods with extraordinary strength, as long as they were not affected by the formation, they would quickly regain consciousness. Having just woken up, they were still in a daze, as if they couldn't tell the difference between illusion and reality. But when they saw Han Shuo walking out of that terrifying formation with his arm around Donna's slender waist, their dazed eyes gradually regained clarity. Li Wei stared blankly for a moment before she suddenly said, "Brian, did you save us again?" The scene of Han Shuo bringing Donna out of the array had already explained the real situation, which was why she asked this question. "Yes, you were affected by the illusion earlier. I saw that the situation was not good, so I knocked you out one by one and brought you out." Since they had all seen it, Han Shuo had no need to hide it. Just as he was about to put Donna down, he heard Donna make a soft "oh" sound. She had already woken up. Eh. Donna cried out in surprise when she saw that Han Shuo had his arm around her slender waist. Her mind quickly turned, and she quickly recognized the situation. She immediately asked, "Brian, did you save me?" Han Shuo smiled when he saw that Donna had woken up. He put her down and apologetically said, "You were also bewitched by the illusion just now. I saw that your emotions were very unstable, so I knocked you out." "It's all right. Thank you." Donna smiled sweetly. Suddenly, her tender and beautiful face blushed. She seemed to have recalled something, and her bright, limpid eyes glanced at the corner of Han Shuo's mouth. Ahem. Han Shuo immediately understood something from the direction of Donna's gaze. He hastily wiped the corner of his mouth with his sleeve. When he lowered his head to take a look, he discovered that there were indeed traces of red on his sleeve. It was the powder Donna applied on her lips. "Ah, you guys. Li Wei's sharp eyes noticed the strange expressions on Han Shuo and Donna's faces. She covered her mouth and cried out in surprise. Disbelief was written all over her face. With Li Wei's soft exclamation, the others pondered for a moment and soon realized what was going on. Each and every one of them wore strange expressions. Among them, Bowen's face was especially gloomy. His gaze towards Han Shuo became even more hostile. "It's not what you guys think." Donna's face turned even redder as she hastily explained. Han Shuo also felt somewhat awkward. When he saw that everyone's gaze was focused on him again, he coughed once again and pretended to be natural as he said, "Miss Donna was lost in the illusion and mistook me for someone else. I was in a hurry to rescue her and did not expect that she would do such a thing while she was in a daze." "Enough." Donna embarrassedly interrupted Han Shuo. She swept a glance at Bolton and the others with her bright eyes and chuckled. She then jokingly scolded, "You brats, why are your minds so dirty?" Li Wei let out a cry of grievance and complained in a low voice, "We didn't say anything." All right. Donna glared at Li Wei and said to Han Shuo apologetically, "Anyway, thank you. Please don't take it to heart if I offended you in any way." "Of course not," Han Shuo replied in a deadpan manner. He thought to himself, "What can I say if you forcefully kissed me? Am I supposed to forcefully kiss you back? It's all thanks to Brian this time. It seems that Brian is truly our lucky star." Bolton once again sighed emotionally. His gaze on Han Shuo grew even more intense. If Han Shuo did not know that Bolton was straight, he would have felt his hair stand on end. What a mysterious fella. He actually saved us again, Li Wei muttered as she stared deeply at Han Shuhua. The first rescue could be considered a fluke, but the second time was no longer an accident. After hearing Li Wei's words, Donna and the others looked at Han Shuhua with different gazes. Therefore, he appeared very calm and didn't let the potential danger affect his mind. The crowd nodded. Donna agreed and said, "Since that is the case, let us press forward courageously and find out what is happening here." Everyone acknowledged and was about to enter when Han Shu suddenly gestured for them to stay put for the time being. He turned around and looked at an unfamiliar demonic formation not far away with a face full of vigilance. When Donna and the others saw Han Shua's gesture, they stopped moving and followed Han Shua's gaze to look in that direction. A soft gasp sounded from that direction. Under their gazes, a group of 4 people walked out from the formation in an incomparably sorry state. Old, Kelly, Kaiser, and Erickson were covered in wounds. The wounds were either bone-deep, charred, or rotting and oozing pus. No one knew what they had gone through. Fear still lingered on their faces. They were panting heavily the moment they walked out from the formation. It seemed that even taking a few steps was very difficult. It seemed that they had expended a great deal of divine energy. "Oh, it's them," Li Wei exclaimed softly and looked at Donna with a probing gaze. Bolton, Bowen, and the others were also extremely tempted. They kept turning their heads to urge Donna, hoping that Donna would give the order to attack those people. It was obvious that Kaiser and the others had all suffered serious injuries. Each of them had expended a great deal of divine energy. Under such circumstances, if Donna and the others were to attack with all their might, it was very likely that they would be able to kill all 4 of them. Donna's eyes flickered with hesitation. Donna subconsciously looked at Han Shuhua with an inquiring gaze. She immediately noticed that Han Shuhua had a grave expression on his face. Under her gaze, he firmly shook his head. Donna remained silent for a few seconds. Under the attentive gazes of Li Wei, Bolton, and the others, she cried out, "No." Li Wei and the others were disappointed, but they did not refute her. Instead, they cast doubtful gazes at Han Shuhua. It was evident that it was Han Shua's signal that Donna gave up on her decision to attack immediately. That old guy isn't as weak as he looks. Miss Donna alone may have the opportunity to kill both Kaiser and Erickson, but we are no match for Old even if all of us join forces. Therefore, it's best that we don't act rashly. Han Shuhua explained in a low voice. As for Kelly of the Druidic Order, he was directly ignored by Han Shuhua. In the past, Han Shuhua had fought side by side with Kelly and knew that Kelly only possessed demigod strength. After his strength advanced by leaps and bounds, Han Shuhua no longer paid any attention to Kelly's demigod strength. What Han Shuhua was certain of was that Kelly was only able to walk out alive thanks to Old's protection. Otherwise, there was no way Kelly, who was only a demigod, would have survived until now when the 4 low gods who came with Kaiser and Erickson were all gone. The fact that Old was able to protect Kelly all the way out alive, while still having strength to spare, made Han Shuhua very apprehensive. Without absolute certainty, Han Shuhua would not act rashly. How come there aren't any casualties? Caesar, who was panting heavily, raised his head to look. His face was filled with shock as he asked Donna and the others. Subconsciously, the gazes of Donna and the others fell on Han Shuhua. When they saw the situation of those on the other side, they became more and more thankful that Han Shuhua was on their side. Having personally experienced the perilous situation, they understood that without Han Shuhua, they would have suffered even more miserably than Kaiser and the others. The 4 on the other side were all people with extremely keen senses. They immediately discovered the focus of their gazes and were greatly surprised. They were somewhat baffled as to what their survival had to do with a puny low god like Han Shuhua. "Let's go. Don't mind them," Han Shuhua softly exclaimed and repeatedly signaled to Donna with his eyes. He could tell that those on the other side were doing their utmost to recover after walking out of the demonic formation. Donna immediately understood Han Shua's intention. She hastily signaled to Bolton and the others with her eyes and followed behind Han Shuhua towards the 9th realm mystical harvester. As expected, when old Kaiser and the others saw Donna and the others enter the formation, none of them dared to continue resting. Under Old's lead, they hurriedly followed after them. If they had stayed where they were, those on the other side would have happily recovered their divine energy when they saw that Donna and the others were not moving. The more divine energy they recovered, the more danger Donna and the others would face. However, when Donna and the others ventured deeper into the formation, those on the other side, fearing that Donna and the others would obtain everything in the formation before them, naturally did not dare to linger. That way, they would not be able to recover their divine energy, which would increase the chances of survival for Donna and the others. "Oh!" Han Shuo suddenly exclaimed as soon as they entered the 9th realm mysticaline harvester. "What's going on?" Donna was startled and immediately asked. "Nothing," Han Shuo answered hastily. With a strange look on his face, he turned around and said solemnly, "Follow me, don't get lost." Donna and the others did not say anything and followed closely behind Han Shuo. Suddenly, the scenery around them changed. Donna and the others found themselves in an unfamiliar stone forest. Behind them, Old and the others who had just entered were all staring at the direction they had just been in, discussing something in amazement. While Donna and the others were puzzled, Han Shuo suddenly shouted, "They can't see us. Everyone, get ready. This should be the best opportunity to kill them." Lady Donna was surprised. She looked at Han Shuo strangely and thought, "How do you know that those people can't see us? How do you know that this is the best opportunity to kill them?" Chapter 660. The 9th realm mystical in harvester was capable of gathering mystical in aura. Apart from that, it could also form a demonic formation of immense destructive power with just a slight modification. It appeared that the person who deployed the 9th realm mystical in harvester did not intend for ordinary people to enter. It was only when Han Shuo stepped into the formation that he discovered that the center of the 9th realm mystical in harvester was fraught with fatal dangers at every step. The area where Han Shuo, Donna, and the others were at was a blind spot of the formation that could be used as a refuge. However, those who did not understand the layout of the 9th realm mystical in harvester would never be able to discover this blind spot, much less enter it. Han Shuo had carefully chosen every step he took. He had paced back and forth many times before he was able to reach this spot. The sudden disappearance of Han Shuo and his party shocked Old and the others. They stared in the direction where Han Shuo and his party disappeared, but did not dare to venture any further. After the painful experience they had just gone through, they truly realized how terrifying this place was. The 4 low gods were all dead. They had also been struggling between life and death from time to reach where they were with great difficulty. This made them understand that every step they took could potentially bring them greater danger. Therefore, the moment the party of 4 disappeared, they naturally believed that the party of 4 had met with a calamity. "Brian, they really can't see us. What's going on?" Li Wei was pleasantly surprised and exclaimed. Donna and the others also stared at Han Shuo with puzzled expressions, their eyes full of incomprehension. "There are patterns in this place. If you don't pay attention to your surroundings, you won't be able to discover them," Han Shuo casually explained as he stared at Old and his party. "What patterns?" "It's just a few mountains. I can't see anything different about them." Li Wei mumbled in disbelief. Han Shuo turned his head around and put on a faint smile. He pointed at Old's direction and explained, "If you pay attention, you'll notice that there's a faint mist lingering there. It's constantly drifting around several mountains and rivers in a regular pattern," and Han Shuo was very familiar with the 9th realm mysticaline harvester. He was able to grasp the crux of the matter with just a casual point. "SK, it's true." Following Han Shuo's instructions, Li Wei was startled to find that every word Han Shuo said was accurate. With that, when Li Wei looked at Han Shuo again, her eyes were filled with admiration. She asked respectfully, "You, what kind of person are you, to be able to observe such minute changes in the surroundings so clearly?" Li Wei was not the only one. Everyone, including Donna, turned pale with fright. They looked at Han Shuo with eyes filled with respect. Some of the rules that Han Shuo had mentioned just now were absolutely difficult for ordinary people to notice. Even some people who were abnormally sensitive to their surroundings would probably not be able to notice everything. They would not even be able to see the layout of some strange trees clearly. However, Han Shuo had said it so casually. This had a great impact on their conventional understanding. What kind of person was he? He was actually able to understand every single peculiar change in his surroundings like the back of his hand? What does the pattern have to do with this place? Why can't they see us? The more Donna spent time with Han Shuo, the more she felt that Han Shuo was hard to understand. She had memorized all the descriptions of the patterns in the surroundings, but she still could not understand how it had anything to do with their current situation. It's a bit more profound when it comes to this. This includes the right time, the right place, the weather, and some of the characteristics of all living things. Han Shuo had the air of a professional charlatan as he used some ambiguous words and some knowledge of the physics and chemistry of the last world to spout nonsense to Donna. His attitude was quite serious as well. Donna, Li Wei, Bolton, and the others who were listening attentively to Han Shuo's explanation wore puzzled faces. The more they listened, the more confused they became. They looked at each other in puzzlement. It would be a miracle if you could understand me. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Han Shuo found it funny and began to explain to them in an even more serious manner. Occasionally, he would mix in some professional jargon from the previous world as he explained to Donna in a very sincere and serious manner. Donna and the others stared at Han Shuo with their eyes wide open. They were all dumbfounded and speechless. If Han Shuo hadn't performed so miraculously, if Han Shuo hadn't brought them to such a mystical area, if Han Shuo's description of the patterns in the surroundings was incorrect, then they would definitely think that Han Shuo didn't know what he was talking about. In fact, Han Shuo was indeed talking nonsense. However, it was precisely because so many strange things had been verified and Han Shuo's actions seemed to be completely in line with a certain pattern that none of them thought that Han Shuo was talking nonsense when they listened to Han Shuo's unusually profound explanation. Instead, they felt ashamed of their own inferiority. They felt that it was because their intelligence was too low that they couldn't understand Han Shuo's earnest explanation. After listening for half a day, they really couldn't understand a single thing. Looking at the earnest expression on Han Shuo's face as he tried his best to make them understand, even Donna suddenly felt that her ability to understand was too poor. She even suspected that there was something wrong with her intelligence. "We've met an expert." Bolton and Li Wei exchanged glances and looked at Han Shuo with admiration. Their determination to rope in Han Shuo grew even stronger. "Do you understand what I'm saying?" Han Shuo asked as he looked at them seriously. "Yes, a little bit, but not really." Li Wei felt a little guilty when she saw Han Shuo's gaze. She hastily nodded in order not to appear particularly stupid. After hearing Li Wei's words and looking at Han Shuo's expectant gaze, Bolton, afraid that Han Shuo would treat him as an idiot, pretended to nod and pondered as though he had understood something. Han Shuo laughed maniacally in his heart. He looked at Donna with even more expectant eyes. Under Han Shuo's attentive gaze, Donna put on a strange expression. She sized up Li Wei and Bolton and saw that they seemed to have understood something. Her heart was filled with astonishment and confusion. If she were to admit that she knew nothing at this moment, wouldn't that mean that she was even more of an idiot than Bolton and Li Wei? Donna put on a sweet smile and nodded reservedly. She said, "Although it's a little profound, I can understand some of it." Ahem, ahem. Han Shuo coughed repeatedly to stop himself from bursting into laughter. Seeing that the three of them thought themselves to be clever, Han Shuo suddenly felt that the three from Elysium could not escape some of the bad habits of mortals. In fact, vanity and self-righteousness were even worse. "What about you two?" Han Shuo asked Bowen and Colbert while suppressing his urge to burst into laughter. The two fellows looked at each other, their faces full of embarrassment. They repeatedly shook their heads, indicating that they didn't understand. They looked very ashamed and didn't dare to look at Han Shuo's sincere gaze. "You two are too stupid," Li Wei said disdainfully. Bolton nodded in agreement and secretly rejoiced at his own cleverness. "Ahaha!" Han Shuo could no longer hold it in and burst into wild laughter. Brian, what are you laughing at? Shouldn't you be laughing at them? Donna thought that Han Shuo was laughing at Bowen and Colbert. She knitted her brows and reprimanded him. No, I didn't mean to laugh at them. Seeing that Bowen and Colbert had become even more embarrassed, Han Shuo hastily explained, I just thought that it's very funny that we can see Old and the others, but they can't see us. Haha, don't you think so? Upon hearing Han Shuo's words, the crowd laughed in agreement and repeatedly agreed that this was indeed the case. Han Shuo shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. He thought to himself that the honest ones were indeed at a disadvantage. Bowen and the others were the ones with low intelligence. These fellows were indeed interesting. All right, let's talk about how we should deal with them. Due to our disappearance, these fellows are very cautious and don't dare to take another step forward. It seems that they have been scared out of their wits by the strangeness of this place. Donna asked Han Shuo after stopping Li Wei and Bolton from laughing at him. It's very simple. Just attack them from here. I can guarantee that they will not know where the attack is coming from, nor will they be able to discover our tracks. Han Shuo explained after calming himself down. That's it? Donna asked again. That's it. Han Shuo answered affirmatively. Good, then what are we waiting for? Hee, there won't be many opportunities for sneak attacks like this. Donna giggled delicately. She appeared to be very happy. As she spoke, she had already started preparing. Bolton, Li Wei, and the others were also preparing their best attacks. They stood in the middle of the stone forest and launched their attacks at Old and the others who were still looking around blankly. Donna flipped her hands. Boundless energy of darkness streaked across the invisible obstacles and struck at Kaiser. Li Wei and Colbert unleashed the elemental energy of death. A soul vortex and a soul storm smashed at Kaiser. The two brothers, Bolton and Bowen, condensed their energy of destruction into sharp blades and fired them at Kaiser. Han Shuo was the only one who remained motionless. He calmly watched the attacks of the five without any intention of joining in. Not good. Kaiser was greatly shocked. He sensed the surging attacks and hastily moved to defend against the attacks coming from an unknown direction. Without saying a word, Erickson drew a line in the air with his left hand. A sparkling and translucent ice barrier formed beside him. The ice barrier was filled with a sparkling luster that reflected his silhouette. It appeared extremely dreamy. Don't move. Old calmly turned his head and said to Kelly. He didn't seem to make any movement, but the destructive energy that the Bowen and Bolton brothers launched towards him was completely blocked, unable to advance a single step. Kelly seemed to have grown accustomed to Old's protection along the way. He had absolute confidence in Old and was not nervous in the slightest. He quietly hid behind Old and did not exert any strength. Bolton, Bowen, don't attack Old. Your attacks won't do him any harm. Donna hastily shouted when she saw that Old had effortlessly neutralized the attacks of Bolton and Bowen. Bolton and Bowen repeatedly responded. Like Donna and Li Wei, they focused their attacks on Kaiser and Erickson, ignoring Old altogether. Donna and the other four brothers got into action. They unleashed all kinds of attacks that dazzled Han Shuo's eyes. One after another, they passed through the unobstructed, invisible barrier and shot at Kaiser and Erickson. Those people attacked in all sorts of bizarre ways. But he definitely doesn't have any friendship with Erickson, and he certainly wouldn't care about Erickson's life or death. Moreover, Kaiser would only care about himself at such a critical moment and would not risk his life for Erickson. I want to kill Erickson alone. The crowd was astounded but soon became overjoyed. They immediately prepared to kill Erickson alone as Han Shuo suggested. And you say you don't like killing and arson? I think you're worse than anyone else. Li Wei giggled and rolled her eyes at Han Shuo. Chapter 661. Han Shuo was unperturbed and did not comment on Li Wei's evaluation. He merely continued to observe Erickson and his party. After receiving Han Shuo's instructions, Donna and the others all aimed their attacks at Erickson. In an instant, rays of light interweaved and divine energy surged towards Erickson. Just as Han Shuo said, Old chose to ignore Erickson. He continued to look all around to observe the changes in the demonic formation, making a futile effort. Kaiser heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that he was no longer under attack. He seized the time to recover his divine energy and paid no attention to Ericsson's impending death. Everyone had a selfish side to them. It was even more impossible to share weal and woe with one another in a relationship that was intertwined with benefits. The attacks that were supposed to be shared by Old and Kaiser were suddenly concentrated on Ericsson alone. The pressure he had to bear immediately multiplied. Ericsson had long been exhausted by this point in time. His divine energy had been greatly depleted. He was like a candle in the wind, on the verge of collapsing under the onslaught of attacks. The light of his life could be extinguished at any moment. Keep it up. Ericsson is on the verge of collapse. Bolton laughed excitedly. He felt an indescribable sense of pride when he saw that Ericsson, a mid-god, was about to be bombarded to death by them. Lord Old, please help us. Kaiser, who was still recovering his divine energy, hastily asked Old for help when he saw that Ericsson was on the verge of collapse. As though he did not hear Kaiser's cry for help, Old continued to scan the surroundings with his brows bunched. He did not take Kaiser's words to heart. The Druidic Order and the Shrine of Ice had always been estranged from each other on profound continent. This had obviously affected the relationship between the leaders of both parties. Old was by no means a magnanimous person who would disregard past enmities and shield his enemies from the wind and rain. Kaiser could not help but smile wryly in his heart when he saw that Old was unmoved. He knew that he couldn't count on Old. Kaiser sensed that the amount of divine energy in his body had been depleted, then looked around at the seemingly endless barrage of attacks coming from unknown sources. After weighing the pros and cons, he felt uncertain. Kaiser looked on helplessly as Ericsson suffered all sorts of attacks. He pretended to have exhausted a great deal of his divine energy and panted to recover his strength. However, he had no intention of helping Ericsson. You guys stay here and deal with them. I'll go out and check out the situation. Staying here isn't a long-term solution. I'll see if I can find a way to go deeper. Han Shuo suddenly said. Donna was taken aback. She looked at Han Shuo in astonishment and asked doubtfully, Aren't you afraid that Old will discover you and kill you instantly if you go out at this time? It's fine. I know what I'm doing. Han Shuo spoke confidently, and then he thought for a moment before instructing Donna, Be careful. It's best not to rashly leave this place before I return. As long as you stay here, I can guarantee your safety. There won't be any problems up there. If you walk out of here, I can't guarantee anything. Donna was stunned speechless. It took her a while before she nodded solemnly. Brian, where are you going? Li Wei asked softly. Soon after, she volunteered. Why don't I go with you? I can help you. You can't help me. Han Shuo immediately refused. When Li Wei was greatly disappointed, Han Shuo added, But if you can get rid of Ericsson and the others, it will be considered as helping me. Upon finishing those words, Han Shuo did not linger any longer. He nodded at Donna and Bolton before his figure blurred, and he walked out of the stone forest. While Donna and the others were attacking Ericsson with all their might, Han Shuo unfolded his consciousness and covered the area from afar, secretly prying into the secrets of the Ninth Realm mystical harvester. As his consciousness gradually extended, Han Shuo sensed an inexplicable calling from the center of the Ninth Realm mystical harvester. It was as though there was something at the center of the Ninth Realm mystical harvester that was softly calling over and over again, waiting for his arrival. The feeling was extremely mysterious. At first, Han Shuo thought that it was an illusion. But when Han Shuo held his breath and tried to sense it carefully, he discovered that the calling was directed at his consciousness, attracting all of his attention. At this moment, Han Shuo was certain that the one who deployed the Ninth Realm mystical harvester was a demonic senior with profound magical powers. Han Shuo had no idea how this terrifying senior came to profound continent. The only thing he could be sure of was that the senior had deployed everything here to target experts from alien material planes who did not know demonic arts. As for Han Shuo, as a demonic arts cultivator, he would not be affected by the demonic formations here. This also meant that the ninth realm mystical harvester, which Donna, Old, and the others faced with every step of danger, would be unimpeded by the demonic formations here. With that in mind, what else did Han Shuo have to worry about? Donna, Li Wei, Bolton, and the others could be counted as Han Shuo's allies. However, at a time like this, as a demonic arts cultivator, Han Shuo would not be willing to let anyone know his secrets. He wanted to keep everything here to himself. With that in mind, Han Shuo cast aside Donna and the others and had them stay in the stone forest to keep Old, Erickson, and the others busy while he explored the ninth realm mystical harvester on his own. As soon as Han Shuo walked out from the stone forest, Old, who had been observing the changes in his surroundings, discovered Han Shuo's presence. As a cultivator of the Edict of Life, Old had an extraordinary ability to sense living beings. As Han Shuo cultivated in demonic arts and had formed his consciousness, his life signature was vastly different from that of an ordinary person. Therefore, Old immediately discovered Han Shuo as soon as he walked out from the stone forest. "Hey kid, where were you just now?" Old suddenly felt relieved when he saw Han Shuo reappear. He grabbed Kelly and hastily flew in the direction of Han Shuo. Han Shuo wasn't surprised that Old could discover him. He calmly and unhurriedly walked towards the ninth realm mystical harvester without the slightest change in his expression. Under Old's watchful eyes, not only did Han Shuo's figure grow further and further away, even his life signature seemed to be concealed by an invisible boundary and gradually disappeared from Old's sight and soul perception. Old was extremely shocked. He was confident that his speed was much faster than the speed at which Han Shuo left. However, not only was he unable to catch up to Han Shuo, but Han Shuo was also rapidly vanishing. Old could not understand this strange feeling no matter how hard he thought about it. He felt very aggrieved. Naturally, Old did not know that when Han Shuo left, a demonic formation called So Close, yet worlds apart activated. The demonic formation forcibly altered the laws of space, causing the distance between him and Han Shuo to suddenly increase. Old, who did not understand the wonders of demonic formations, pursued Han Shuo with all his might. But the distance between him and Han Shuo only grew further and further. Donna and the others in the stone forest in the blind spot of the ninth realm mystical harvester were stunned. From their point of view, they saw a strange phenomenon. Han Shuo was unhurriedly walking toward the depths of the ninth realm mystical harvester while Old chased after him at lightning speed. Old was clearly using all his strength to chase after Han Shuo, but the distance between the two was infinitely increasing. It looked like Old was rapidly retreating as he chased after Han Shuo. The scene was extremely strange. The laws of space here seemed to have been forcefully distorted. This is too strange. Who is the person who arranged everything here? Why does he seem to know everything? Donna mumbled to herself with a horrified face. Brian won't be in trouble, right? Li Wei asked in a panic. She watched as Han Shuo walked step by step toward the depths of the ninth realm mystical harvester without turning back. The summoning from the center of the ninth realm mystical harvester grew clearer and clearer. That intense summoning directly filled Han Shuo's consciousness, carrying with it an evil and bewitching power that incessantly tempted Han Shuo to go deeper. The summoning's influence on Han Shuo grew stronger and stronger. It was so strong that Han Shuo could not calm his mind and continue to observe his surroundings. Finally, Han Shuo gave up on observing his surroundings in detail. Following the guidance of his consciousness, he quickly moved towards the center of the summoning. Soon, Han Shuo arrived at the location of the summoning, the Eye of the Ninth Realm Mystical Harvester. The eye of the array was covered with complicated runes, engraved with many ghostly images that Han Shuo could not understand. There were curving tadpole-like lines that resembled the ancient oracle bone inscriptions of Han Shuo's world. They appeared very mysterious and abstruse, making Han Shuo unable to understand their meaning. The summoning to Han Shuo's consciousness came from under the eye of the array, but he did not know what it was. Han Shuo understood that for such a terrifyingly enormous ninth realm mystical harvester, Apart from the mysterious patterns and runes, it also required a treasure that could support everything in the formation. Han Shuo had never heard of such an enormous demonic formation. Based on his understanding of demonic formations, the treasure that maintained everything in the formation must be far more precious than he could imagine. Han Shuo was about to walk towards the eye of the array when a crack the size of a well suddenly appeared in the eye of the array. A dozen or so mystical demons that had disappeared for a long time whizzed out. Han Shuo was greatly shocked. Not only did he not rush in, but he also rapidly retreated a few steps. Han Shuo guessed that those dozen or so mystical demons were the ones he had seen earlier. They were the souls of the corpses that had died in the surrounding demonic formations. These souls were at the divine realm. Inside such a mysterious ninth realm mystical harvester, they were extremely terrifying after they had transformed into mystical demons. Han Shuo had previously witnessed the terror of these mystical demons. Most importantly, these mystical demons were not like the demonic formations here. He was not immune to them. Han Shuo believed that he would not be able to withstand a dozen or so terrifying mystical demons coming out at him at the same time. He even had thoughts of retreating immediately. Contrary to Han Shuo's expectations, when he retreated, the dozen or so mystical demons did not whiz over. Instead, they circled around the hole the size of a well. Seeing that the dozen or so mystical demons did not pounce over, Han Shuo was greatly reassured. He carefully observed from afar and only cautiously approached the hole when he realized that the dozen or so mystical demons did not seem to have any intention of pouncing over regardless of the consequences. All of a sudden, the summoning to his consciousness from the hole changed slightly, as though an order had been issued. The dozen or so mystical demons that were circling around the hole flew far away, whizzing over his head as they opened up a path, waiting for Han Shuo to come over. After hesitating for a moment, Han Shuo creased his brows and walked towards the hole apprehensively, not knowing what he was about to face. Before Han Shuo could poke his head out to see what was going on, a force was suddenly released from the hole. It instantly entangled Han Shuo's body and sucked Han Shuo inside. Chapter 662. Han Shuo felt the world spinning around him. Dizzy and disoriented, he struggled to regain his footing. When he looked up, Han Shuo suddenly discovered that he was inside an artifact. The top of his head was filled with abstruse and mysterious runes. Those runes were glistening with bloody radiance and wriggling as though they were alive. Beneath his feet was a greenish-brown ground. The ground was very uneven and hard to the touch. Incomparably dense mystical aura filled the surroundings. The amount of mystical aura here far exceeded Han Shuo's imagination. It lingered around him like a faint mist and did not disperse. It could be directly inhaled into one's heart and lungs as one breathed. Han Shuo believed that if he were to cultivate in such a place, the speed at which he could accumulate demonic yuan would increase by 100-fold, or even faster. With a heart full of astonishment, Han Shuo continuously sized up his surroundings. He raised his head and discovered that there was a vast space above his head. Enormous shadows were hovering in the vast space. With a thought, Han Shuo was shocked to discover that the shadows hovering in the distance above his head were the dozen or so mystical demons hovering at the entrance of the cave. Since when did those mystical demons become so huge? Han Shuo was greatly astonished. Soon after, he had an idea. His body slightly shook as he used his consciousness to sense the surrounding situation even more meticulously. Sure enough, my body has shrunk. It seems that I have been pulled inside by some artifact. It's not those mystical demons that have become bigger. It seems that I have shrunk. Han Shuo cried out in surprise as he sensed the changes in his surroundings with his consciousness. After Han Shuo cried out in surprise, he suddenly discovered that the runes that were constantly flickering with bloody radiance were moving rapidly in a mysterious trajectory. An illusory energy appeared out of nowhere. Before Han Shuo could figure out what was happening, that illusory energy suddenly established a bizarre connection with his consciousness. A message was transmitted to Han Shuo. I am Cauldron Spirit. Welcome, new master. Han Shuo was startled. He did not understand the situation and subconsciously replied, "Who are you? What is this place? Who set up the ninth realm mysticaline harvester?" "I am the cauldron spirit of the cauldron of myriad demon. The one who deployed all the formations in the cauldron of myriad demon was my original master, Gu Tianxie, the exalted demon lord." The voice that called itself the cauldron spirit slowly explained to Han Shuo. Cauldron of myriad demons? Devil Lord Gu Tianxie? What was going on? Han Shuo was at a loss. His mind was in a mess. Han Shuo pondered for a moment before he suddenly exclaimed, "I'm the new master of the cauldron of myriad demons?" What was going on? Where's the original owner? The original owner, Gu Tianxie, the exalted demon lord, had a great battle with an expert of this universe. Both sides suffered great losses. That expert was in hiding after suffering severe injuries. The exalted demon lord had exhausted a great deal of his physical body to traverse across the universe and suffered devastating injuries. Before his death, he forcibly escaped to this material plane and set up everything here before his consciousness completely dissipated. The exalted demon lord's consciousness completely dissipated a long time ago. I'm afraid you are the only demonic arts cultivator in this universe. Moreover, I was the one who brought you here. Therefore, from now on, you are my new master." Cauldron Spirit explained to Han Shuo. Han Shuo was extremely shocked. He nearly jumped up from his seat. Just how powerful was Gu Tianxie, the exalted demon lord, to be able to spare the energy to set up everything here before his death? Was that god of this universe who fought the exalted demon lord and survived even more powerful? As though it knew what was on Han Shuo's mind, Cauldron Spirit angrily explained, "The exalted demon lord had just traversed across the universe and exhausted a great deal of energy before his consciousness completely dissipated. Otherwise, the one who died might not be the exalted demon lord." Han Shuo was stunned by Cauldron Spirit's explanation. He suddenly shuddered and hastily asked, "What do you mean by you were the one who brought me here?" "To be more precise, it was the exalted demon lord and I who brought you here together. The exalted demon lord arranged everything, and I merely carried it out." Cauldron Spirit pondered for a moment before it explained, "There are tens of thousands of material planes in this universe. Don't you find it strange that your soul would only descend upon this material plane?" "Now that you put it that way, it does seem a little interesting," Han Shuo thought to himself. "Haven't you noticed that there are many traces left behind by the exalted demon lord on this material plane? Do you really think that the 5 extreme locations were formed naturally? If it weren't for the exalted demon lord's arrangements before his death, how could there be so many of the 5 extreme locations?" Cauldron Spirit continued. Han Shuo was startled. Soon after, he cried out in surprise, "So that's how it is. It's no wonder that even though I have been to the Abyss Realm, I have never discovered a single one of the 5 extreme locations in the vast Abyss Realm." The exalted demon lord knew that he didn't have much time left. As the energy in his body was fading every second and his consciousness was dispersing, he was unable to bring an inheritor of demonic arts from another universe. Therefore, he could only use his remaining energy to arrange the 5 greatest extreme locations of the 5 extreme locations and wait for a suitable opportunity. That is, when someone's soul underwent a great transformation and the intense undulations of energy from traversing to this material plane, the exalted demon lord's soul would be forcibly brought to this material plane in this universe. After the exalted demon lord finished arranging all these, his consciousness gradually dissipated. However, that opportunity did not arrive, and he ultimately perished. I, the cauldron spirit of the cauldron of myriad demon, have inherited the exalted demon lord's dying wish and have been waiting for that opportunity all this time. I don't know how many years have passed, but your soul, under the great transformation, resonated with the undulations left behind by the exalted demon lord. Using the energy left behind by the exalted demon lord, I was able to forcibly bring your soul to this universe and precisely descend to this material plane." Han Shuo was astounded. After listening to the Cauldron Spirit's explanation, he finally realized that the transmigration of his soul was not a coincidence. Everything was the catalyst left behind by the exalted demon lord Gu Tianxia and the cauldron spirit of the cauldron of myriad demon. Your soul is simply too weak. In order to bring you safely from that universe and attach yourself to a physical body, I have exhausted too much of the energy here. As the cauldron spirit of the cauldron of myriad demon, I had no choice but to enter a deep slumber and continuously gather mystical aura from the ninth realm mystical harvester to recover. For a period of time after that, I did not know where you were. It was not until a while ago that I woke up and immediately started calling for you. However, you and I were too far apart, and I was still in a rather weak state. Therefore, you were unable to sense my calling and did not come to me. Just when I was about to take the risk and fly out of the cauldron of myriad demon, you miraculously arrived at the underground world and came all the way to this place. It seems that you are the one chosen by the exalted demon lord, and that you will come to me by yourself sooner or later, the cauldron spirit said in a gratified manner. Han Shuo found the cauldron spirit's words rather odd. He never expected that there would be such a peculiar cauldron spirit in the depths of the underground world, silently watching him and waiting for his arrival. This feeling made Han Shuo feel somewhat touched. Why did Gu Tianxia go through so much trouble to bring someone over from our universe? If Gu Tianxia wanted to, he could have found a successor on this material plane and taken over everything here. I believe that doing so would have saved me a lot of effort, Han Shuo asked in puzzlement. First of all, there were no highly intelligent beings on this material plane. More importantly, the exalted demon lord believed that everyone in this universe was alien and that his successor could only be chosen from his homeworld. Chapter 663. Inside the cauldron of myriad demon, an enormous amount of mystical aura condensed into a gaseous form. Under the cauldron spirit's guidance, the condensed mystical aura flowed through Han Shuo's mouth and nose and into Han Shuo's body. The enormous ninth realm mystical harvester had been gathering mystical aura for many years. As soon as the mystical aura entered Han Shuo's body, Han Shuo didn't even need to think about it. The mystical aura rapidly flowed through his limbs and meridians and returned to his demonic infant. After listening to the cauldron spirit's explanation, Han Shuo opened up his mind and emptied his consciousness. He temporarily stopped thinking about any problems and allowed the demonic infant in his body to rapidly condense and digest the mystical aura according to the circulation path of demonic arts. Han Shuo had discovered a long time ago that the demonic yuan in his body grew faster when he didn't deliberately adjust everything. After opening up his mind, all of Han Shuo's actions were done subconsciously. There was no active interference from his consciousness. It was this state that allowed Han Shuo's demonic infant to unleash all of its potential. The cauldron spirit also played an important role in this process. It gathered the mystical aura, accelerated the condensation process, and pushed the mystical aura towards Han Shuo's demonic infant. Han Shuo's consciousness seemed to have returned to the state of a fetus. Unbeknownst to Han Shuo, the demonic infant in his body continued to condense an enormous amount of mystical aura. On one hand, it replenished the demonic infant's needs, and on the other hand, it spread the dissolved demonic yuan to every cell and bone in his body. Time passed by quickly and silently. Han Shuo's consciousness was ethereal and muddle-headed. Under the stimulation of the demonic yuan, his body crackled incessantly. Once again, he experienced the transformation of being reborn. The demonic infant in his body was also gradually transforming. The demonic infant that looked exactly the same as Han Shuo's was no longer indistinct. Instead, it was clearly visible. It was as though every pore on his body had suddenly become visible. The transformation of his body and the demon infant didn't stop. Han Shuo's divine sense suddenly trembled as a chaotic belief surged into his divine sense. In the next moment, Han Shuo suddenly woke up from his ethereal state. The piercing pain brought about by the transformation of his body and the demonic infant immediately surged into Han Shuo's soul. He almost couldn't help but let out a miserable howl. I believe you should know that any sudden change will be accompanied by some pain. Not only do you have to endure this pain, but you also have to carefully comprehend what the exalted demon lord left for you in your consciousness. Otherwise, your state of mind will not be able to keep up with the power your body is increasing, which will be very disadvantageous to you in the future. Cauldron Spirit transmitted to Han Shuo. In that instant, Han Shuo understood everything that had happened to him. When his consciousness regained its clarity, he could clearly sense the transformation of his body and the demonic infant. He could sense that the enormous amount of mystical aura was still surging into his body and being converted by the demonic infant into demonic yuan that nourished his body. The enormous amount of mystical aura, after being converted into demonic yuan, would not only aid in the transformation of Han Shuo's body and demonic infant, but it could also help Han Shuo break through to the next realm. Of course, Han Shuo had to be in a realm that was compatible with his own strength. Han Shuo had to use his heart to comprehend the insights of the exalted demon lord's consciousness. Only by improving his realm to the level required by his body and demonic infant would Han Shuo be able to harvest the energy to the greatest extent. Otherwise, if he didn't have a strong enough state of mind to support the sudden influx of energy, he might end up suffering instead. After understanding all this, Han Shuo cut off his connection with Cauldron Spirit and no longer paid attention to the transformation of his body and demonic infant. He focused all of his attention on comprehending his consciousness and slowly comprehending the thing that had suddenly appeared in his consciousness. Gu Tianxia, the exalted demon lord's understanding of demonic energy, was much more profound than Chu Kanglin's. The two were not even on the same level. The thing that filled Han Shuo's consciousness was like a cluster of violently fluctuating clouds. Without any words to describe it, Han Shuo had to use his consciousness to sense the changes in the cluster of clouds and search for the insights Gu Tianxia, the exalted demon lord, left him. At first, Han Shuo didn't know how to proceed. He tried to use the energy of his consciousness to sense everything within the cluster of clouds. However, Han Shuo soon realized that it would be futile. Han Shuo knew that the transformation of his body and demonic infant wouldn't end in a short period of time. Therefore, Han Shuo wasn't in a hurry. He calmed his mind, focused his attention, and tried to understand everything within the cluster of clouds bit by bit. After an unknown period of time, Han Shuo opened up his mind and discarded all distracting thoughts. Suddenly, he fell into some sort of bizarre state. He suddenly formed some sort of profound connection with the erratic and ever-changing cluster of clouds. Many chaotic and distracting thoughts shot out from the cloud in all directions in an instant. Those distracting thoughts were like sharp needles stabbing into Han Shuo's mind. Han Shuo's consciousness felt as though it had suffered a heavy blow and was in agony. When his consciousness felt the piercing pain, the tearing pain from his body and demonic infant's transformation seemed to have increased tenfold in an instant. Han Shuo nearly fainted. Forcefully enduring the torturous pain, Han Shuo reassembled his consciousness. To his astonishment, he discovered that the distracting thoughts that had shot out in all directions had begun to reorganize themselves in a regular pattern when he reassembled his consciousness. This behavior was something that Han Shuo couldn't see with his naked eyes, but he could perceive with his consciousness. Suddenly, Han Shuo, whose face was contorted by the intense pain, instantly quieted down. He remained seated in a cross-legged posture like an immutable boulder, dead silent. During this process, Han Shuo's body continued to emit a brilliant curtain of light. The transformation of his body and demonic infant continued. After an unknown period of time, the extremely dense mystical qi within the cauldron of myriad demon gradually thinned out. The speed at which it flowed to Han Shuo's mouth and nose also slowed down. After another long period of time, all of the mystical qi within the cauldron of myriad demon seemed to have been cleansed by a strong gust of wind. Han Shuo's body also stopped glowing. After another long period of time, Han Shuo's fingers, which had been silent for God knows how long, suddenly trembled. After a while, Han Shuo's eyebrows twitched repeatedly. He opened his eyes and slowly woke up from that wondrous state. Congratulations, new master. You have directly broken through a realm. The cauldron spirit's voice suddenly sounded in Han Shuo's consciousness. Han Shua's eyes were filled with bewilderment. It was as though he had just woken up from a long dream. For a moment, he couldn't make sense of his current situation. After the cauldron spirit's voice sounded, Han Shua started to ponder with his brows bunched. He slowly recalled everything that had happened to him. Gradually, Han Shua's brows smoothed out as though he had grasped something. He followed that clue and sank into deep thought. After a while, Han Shua suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. He stood up from his cross-legged sitting position, twisted his body, clenched his fists, and sensed the changes that had occurred to his body. Your body has once again undergone a complete transformation. Your demonic infant has also undergone a transformation. You have made great progress compared to before. The cauldron spirit transmitted to Han Shua's consciousness. Even without the cauldron spirit's explanation, Han Shua could sense the changes that had occurred to his demonic infant and his body. The demonic yuan circulating in his body seemed to have undergone a qualitative transformation. It was as though it had turned into liquid and was slowly flowing through his limbs and bones like a trickle. Every cell and every bone in his body seemed to be brimming with boundless energy. With a single thought, that energy seemed ready to overflow. The demonic infant did not seem to have undergone too many changes. However, when Han Shua looked within himself, he discovered that the demonic infant, the source of his energy, had turned from blurry to incomparably clear. It truly resembled an infant that had been reborn. The changes to his body and demonic infant made Han Shua a little uncomfortable for a moment. There were some significant changes that he could not comprehend in the short term. He was slowly trying to familiarize himself with them. Master, you have already reached the Omen realm. I believe you should already know how to continue cultivating in this realm. Han Shua stared blankly for a moment before he became puzzled and said, Yes, carefully comprehend everything that the exalted demon lord left in your consciousness. You will gradually understand, the cauldron spirit reminded. Han Shua suddenly discovered that there were indeed some indescribable insights in his consciousness. The next moment, Han Shua suddenly recalled that he was in a wondrous state just now and had some intuitive understandings of the Nine Changes realm. I got it. Haha, I have actually reached the Omen realm. That Chu Kanglin has been painstakingly searching for a way to break through the Nine Changes realm and reach the Omen realm, but to no avail. He did not expect that I would take this step so easily. According to legend, only those who have reached the Omen realm can ascend to the immortal realm. Am I now one of the so-called gods of my world? After coming to his senses, Han Shua laughed heartily and shouted loudly inside the cauldron of myriad demon. Han Shua could not help but feel excited. Back then, Chu Kanglin had coerced him into fighting a monk and a Taoist priest in order to break through the shackles of his body and reach the Omen realm. Unfortunately, in the end, Chu Kanglin's efforts were in vain. Instead, Han Shua's soul was transported to the profound plane of this universe. It was as though everything had been predestined. Now that he had reached a realm that even Chu Kanglin did not have the opportunity to touch, it meant that Han Shua had finally surpassed Chu Kanglin. To Han Shua, this was a knot in his heart. He had finally walked out from the shadow of Chu Kanglin. The mystical aura that the ninth realm mystical harvester has gathered over the years has all been used on you. As the core of the formation guarding this place, I have used up some of my energy to guide you to this place. I'm afraid that this place won't be able to hold on for much longer, Cauldron Spirit suddenly said after Han Shua gradually calmed down from his excitement. What do you mean? Han Shua was startled. Everything in this place can be destroyed, and it must be destroyed. Otherwise, there will be an endless stream of people coming to investigate everything that happened here. Those who came with you this time should only be the vanguard. If this place is not destroyed, there will be even more people coming to investigate. I have been in charge of this place for a long time, and I have long known how they operate, Cauldron Spirit said indifferently. Upon hearing those words, Han Shua's heart jolted, and he immediately realized what Cauldron Spirit meant. That's right. The ninth realm mystical harvester was so mysterious. Many experts from advanced material planes had disappeared in this place for no apparent reason many years ago. Those people's interest in this place would not diminish. Donna, Kaiser, and the others should only be the first batch to investigate. If they did not receive any news from Donna, Kaiser, and the others, they would definitely send more people over. Even if Han Shuo destroyed the only interplanar transportation matrix on Profound Continent, the Cemetery of Death, they would still find other ways to enter this place, just like Old did. Only when everything in this place was destroyed, and there was nothing left that could amaze them, would they give up on this place. Then, Profound Continent would truly be at peace, and would no longer be disturbed by experts from alien material planes. Fortunately, you came and got in touch with me. As long as you and I are here, everything can be recreated. There really is no need for this place to exist anymore. As long as I am here and you are strong enough, you will be able to deploy everything in this place with your immense power. But before that, you must do your best to conceal the traces of you cultivating in demonic arts. That person who fought against the exalted demon lord back then was extremely powerful. Once he learns of your existence, he will not hesitate to obliterate you. After such a long time, I wonder if that person has recovered. But even if he hasn't, killing you is as easy as flipping his palm. Therefore, from now on, you better not let anyone know that you cultivate in demonic arts, lest that person learns of it. Cauldron Spirit seemed to be very wary of that expert who fought against Gu Tianxia. It cautiously reminded Han Shuo. Han Shuo nodded solemnly and replied, I understand. From now on, I will try my best not to display demonic arts in front of others. But once I do, I will not let anyone who sees me live. It's good that you understand. Also, after your body has been reborn, you can use the energy of your two avatars to conceal the fact that your main body cultivates in demonic arts. You can give it a try. Han Shuo was pleasantly surprised to hear those words. He followed Cauldron Spirit's instructions and tried to utilize the energy of his avatar of death, the skeletal staff. As soon as he did so, Han Shuo cried out in surprise, Not bad. There's no obstruction at all. Han Shuo could sense that the energy of his avatar of death, the skeletal staff, could flow unimpeded through his main body. In the blink of an eye, Han Shuo's temperament changed dramatically. It was as though his main body had become an avatar of death. However, Han Shuo could clearly sense that the energy came from the skeletal staff in his body. He was merely borrowing the energy of the skeletal staff. You can use the energy of both avatars. As long as you don't use demonic arts, no one will be able to tell that you have cultivated in demonic arts. Also, that avatar formed from a demonic weapon contains a large number of impure souls and demonic auras. I need to help you gather those negative energies and weak dead souls. Otherwise, it will affect your avatar's ability to comprehend the energy of this world. Cauldron Spirit continued. Han Shuo suddenly recalled that the Demon's Lair Edge had absorbed some negative energies and vengeful souls. After hearing Cauldron Spirit's explanation, Han Shuo suddenly realized that the reason why his avatar of destruction couldn't make any further progress in the Edict of Destruction might be because, as Cauldron Spirit said, the energy was too impure and impure. However, those negative energies and vengeful souls were also a kind of energy. Han Shuo would be rather reluctant to let Cauldron Spirit erase them. Don't worry, the 3 spirit demons you refined can take over all of those energies. I will take care of everything for you. With that, your spirit demons will grow, and your avatar will be able to comprehend the energy it cultivates without any obstruction. Everyone will be happy with that, Cauldron Spirit explained as though it knew what Han Shuo was thinking. That's great. Han Shuo was overjoyed. He laughed heartily and felt relieved. He thought that with such a Cauldron Spirit, many things would become easier for him. Chapter 664. As the soul of the Cauldron of Myriad Demon, the Cauldron Spirit knew everything about the Cauldron of Myriad Demon like the back of its hand. It was of great help to Han Shuo. At the Cauldron Spirit's command, Han Shuo's avatar of destruction flew out from his main body, transformed into the Demon's Lair Edge, and landed inside the Cauldron of Myriad Demon. The 3 spirit demons Han Shuo refined also flew out and floated around inside the Cauldron of Myriad Demon. What do you want me to do? Han Shuo asked the Cauldron Spirit. I will help you transfer the negative energy and weak soul energy inside the demonic weapon to the spirit demons. Don't worry, there won't be any problems, the cauldron spirit replied. Is there anything I need to do? Han Shuo asked. You just need to leave the cauldron and drip a drop of your blood into the cauldron to complete the master recognition process. Once the master recognition process is complete, I will be inside your body and we will be able to communicate with each other at any time. The cauldron spirit replied. How can I leave? Han Shuo suddenly recalled that he was forcibly pulled into the cauldron of myriad demon by the energy inside the cauldron of myriad demon. Fly out. The energy binding you has disappeared, the cauldron spirit replied. Han Shuo stared blankly for a moment. He gave it a try and discovered that the energy binding him above his head had indeed disappeared. With one thought, Han Shuo flew out of the cauldron of myriad demon cauldron. He suddenly felt the demonic yuan in his body that had condensed into liquid form, surging violently like a mountain torrent. The speed at which he flew out was so fast that Han Shuo couldn't get used to it for a while. Han Shuo found himself at the center of the enormous ninth realm mystical harvester after passing through the cauldron's mouth. He moved closer to the mouth of the cauldron and saw a three-legged cauldron about a meter tall. The surface of the cauldron was covered with bizarre runes and glistened with green radiance. Clouds and mist lingered around the cauldron, obscuring its condition. Under Han Shuo's attentive gaze, the cauldron of myriad demons slowly rose from the mouth of the cauldron and hovered in front of Han Shuo. It gradually shrank until it was the size of Han Shuo's palm. Drip a drop of your blood into the cauldron. From today onwards, you are the new master of the cauldron of myriad demon. Cauldron spirit's voice sounded from the mouth of the cauldron of myriad demon. As soon as Han Shuo heard cauldron spirit's instructions, he made a small cut on the middle finger of his right hand and forced his blood into the cauldron of myriad demon. Enough! Shouted the cauldron spirit inside the cauldron of myriad demon. Blood sprayed into the cauldron of myriad demon. In an instant, the cauldron glowed brightly, and some of the runes on the cauldron's surface seemed to come alive, wriggling like earthworms. From afar, the ancient runes that resembled earthworms formed a sinister and terrifying image, appearing extremely evil and mysterious. A mysterious connection was formed between Han Shuo and cauldron spirit after his blood spurted out. Han Shuo stared at the cauldron of myriad demon with glistening eyes. He remained in that position for a few seconds. Suddenly, he received another message from cauldron spirit in his consciousness. All right, from today onwards, you are my new master. After receiving this message, the cauldron of myriad demons spun in his palm and flew into his body from his palm amidst a hazy green radiance. Using his consciousness, Han Shuo discovered that the cauldron of myriad demon had shrunk to the size of a palm. It was like an organ of his body, located above his lower abdomen. Master, everything in this place will collapse and dissipate upon my departure. This is something that the exalted Demon Lord has long planned. Before that happens, there will be an earth-shattering upheaval. You'd better leave this place as soon as possible before it happens, lest you suffer the aftershock of the ninth realm mystical harvester's destruction, Cauldron Spirit reminded. Han Shuo was astounded. After hearing Cauldron Spirit's words, he carefully sensed the changes in his surroundings. He suddenly discovered that everything in this place seemed to be slowly changing, just as Cauldron Spirit had said. Deep and muffled noises could be heard coming from within the majestic mountains. At a glance, Han Shuo felt as though the mountains were on the verge of collapse. How long will it take before it is completely destroyed? Also, how long has it been since I started absorbing the mystical aura in the cauldron? Han Shuo hastily asked. This place will be completely destroyed within 2 hours. Not a single trace will be left behind. No one in this universe should be able to discover anything from the exalted Demon Lord's arrangements. You can rest assured. You have stayed in the cauldron for a total of 9 days. 9 by 9 is a cycle. It is now 9 days later. Cauldron Spirit replied. Han Shuo was greatly astonished. He wasn't astonished by the length of time he spent in the cauldron. On the contrary, he was astonished by how short the time he spent in the cauldron was. According to Han Shuo's experience, The time required for each breakthrough to the next realm would be longer. At the juncture of a breakthrough, the strengthening of one's body might take several months of effort. A complete breakthrough would take even longer. Han Shuo originally thought that he would have stayed in the cauldron for several years or even decades. He didn't expect that he would only stay for a few days. The situation here was personally arranged by the exalted demon lord. It is rather special, and I played a part in it. Therefore, the time limit was shortened to 9 days. You don't have to be surprised. Cauldron Spirit transmitted, as though it could read Han Shuo's thoughts. It was only after hearing Cauldron Spirit's explanation that Han Shuo came to a sudden realization. With such a terrifying character as Gu Tianxie, the exalted demon lord and the cauldron of myriad demon, it was reasonable that the process could be shortened to 9 days. What about those people inside the various formations? Are they all dead? Han Shuo's heart stirred as he suddenly asked. Not yet. If you want them to die, they can die. If you want them to live, they can still live. Cauldron Spirit replied. What do you mean? Han Shuo asked. Before the 9th realm mystical harvester is completely destroyed, I can still use everything in this place. When you entered the Cauldron Spirit, I used the formations deployed by the exalted demon lord to isolate and imprison those people. The formations that imprison them are still active. As long as you wish, I can kill them at any time, Cauldron Spirit calmly replied. It seemed that by using the demonic formations that had yet to be destroyed, Kaiser, Erickson, and even Old would be able to destroy them with just a wave of his hand. That's great. However, there are some people that I want to kill with my own hands. There are also some people that I can spare from death. They will be of use to me in the future. Han Shuo instructed. No problem. Cauldron Spirit replied. Just as Han Shuo was about to leave, the dozen or so mystical demons that had been hovering in the surroundings suddenly whizzed towards Han Shuo. Han Shuo was startled. However, before Han Shuo could put up any defensive measures, he immediately felt the Cauldron Spirit tremble slightly in his body. Shortly after, Han Shuo discovered that the mouth of the cauldron of myriad demon had emerged from his lower abdomen and sucked in the dozen or so mystical demons. Master, I can directly form demon generals with powerful souls inside the cauldron. Apart from being able to intimidate 10,000 demons, the other meaning of the cauldron of myriad demons name is that it can contain 10,000 demons. The main source of my power is also determined by the number and strength of the demon generals inside the cauldron. Before the exalted demon lord fought that being in this universe, there were tens of thousands of demon generals of various sizes inside the cauldron. Among them, there were close to 1,000 demon generals as powerful as these dozen or so mystical demons. There were more than 200 demon generals that were even more powerful than these mystical demons. Many of the exalted demon lord's opponents were directly refined to death without the exalted demon lord's hands. However, in the battle with that person, I exhausted nearly 10,000 demon generals, which is why I'm so weak. Even these dozen or so demon generals were only gathered when the exalted demon lord's consciousness completely dissipated, Cauldron Spirit explained. Does that mean that as long as an expert's soul is enveloped before their death, they can be refined into demon generals inside the cauldron of myriad demon? The more demon generals you form in the cauldron, the stronger they are, and the greater your power? Han Shuo was extremely shocked and hastily asked. There were tens of thousands of souls inside the demon's lair edge, but compared to the demon generals inside the cauldron of myriad demon, those souls were like ants compared to a towering mountain. The demon generals formed inside the cauldron of myriad demon, such as these mystical demons, were enough to make a god suffer unspeakably. Even the vile souls formed by the demon's lair edge couldn't compare to one of the dozen or so mystical demons inside the cauldron of myriad demon. According to Cauldron Spirit, these mystical demons formed from the souls of gods weren't even the most powerful demon generals inside the cauldron of myriad demon. Han Shuo didn't even dare to imagine how terrifying the cauldron of myriad demon was back then. That's right. The more demon generals there are in the cauldron, the stronger they are, and the more powerful I will be, and the more useful I will be. However, the souls that can form demon generals inside the cauldron of myriad demon generals must be at least as weak as the ones you use to refine spirit demons. The demon generals formed by those souls are of the lowest grade. If the soul energy is slightly weaker, it won't be able to form demon generals inside the cauldron of myriad demon generals and can only be used to devour demonic aura. The cauldron spirit bluntly attacked Han Shuo. Han Shuo put on a bitter smile. He didn't expect that only souls with demigod strength could form demon generals inside the cauldron of myriad demon generals, and demon generals of the lowest grade at that. It would appear that the so-called spirit demons he refined from the orc shaman were simply insignificant in comparison. Those spirit demons I refined can evolve. Are they considered powerful? Han Shuo asked the cauldron spirit dispiritedly. The basic materials you use to refine spirit demons are of too low a grade. The spirit demons that take shape don't have much room for development. They aren't even as powerful as the mystical demons I refined. When you are able to collect more powerful souls and let me refine them into spirit demons, you will know how great the difference is. The cauldron spirit continued to provoke Han Shuo. Only low gods and mid-gods could refine mystical demons in the cauldron of myriad demon generals. Then, what kind of souls would be needed to refine spirit demons of a higher grade? High gods? Han Shuo didn't dare to imagine. He then recalled what the cauldron spirit had said. It said that there were more powerful demon generals than the mystical demons he had now refined. He reckoned that there were more than 200 spirit demons in the cauldron of myriad demon generals. What did this mean? The souls of more than 200 high gods? Han Shuo was speechless. Han Shuo suddenly felt that the 3 spirit demons he refined were like children playing house when compared to the cauldron of myriad demon. Suddenly, Han Shuo lost all interest in the 3 spirit demons that he had painstakingly refined. Comparisons were odious. Han Shuo shook his head and smiled wryly. You are my master, and the demon generals in the cauldron of myriad demon generals are under your control. I think it's better to leave the 3 little spirit demons in the cauldron of myriad demon generals. In the future, when you collect soul energy, some of the weaker souls that can't form demon generals can absorb some demonic energy. What do you think? The cauldron spirit asked for Han Shuo's opinion. Do as you see fit. Come on, let's leave this place. I'll go to Ericsson's place and kill him first. After listening to Cauldron Spirit's words, Han Shuo no longer had any interest in the 3 spirit demons. He urged the Cauldron Spirit to hurry up. The Cauldron Spirit pointed out the location that Han Shuo wanted to go to and became silent. Before the 9th realm mystical harvester was completely destroyed, everything in this place was still under the Cauldron Spirit's control. This also meant that Han Shuo had become the master of this place. Han Shuo expanded his consciousness through the Cauldron Spirit. He suddenly discovered that after establishing a connection with the Cauldron Spirit, the range of his consciousness had increased by several times. He was able to see everything in his surroundings in an instant. In the blink of an eye, Han Shuo had figured out everything that had happened in his surroundings. He discovered that Donna, Li Wei, and the others were still in that blind spot. The only difference was that the way to leave that area had changed. As they did not understand the mysteries of the formation, they were all trapped and unable to leave. Ericsson and Kaiser were trapped by the misty illusory matrix in the same area. They were still exhausted and circling around the small area. Old and Kelly were even further away. Old seemed to have given up on his futile efforts and lay down on the ground as though he had fallen asleep. Kelly, on the other hand, was fumbling around, anxiously looking for a way out. Through the Cauldron Spirit's description, Han Shuo learned that Old was the most powerful among them. The area that the Cauldron Spirit had trapped him in was a demonic combination formation. In the few days before Han Shuo regained consciousness, Old had tried every method possible, but to no avail. It was only after a few days that he finally calmed down. I don't know what kind of relationship you have with them, so I didn't kill any of them. I only trapped them all, the Cauldron Spirit transmitted. Very good. Some of them are still useful to me. I won't kill them for the time being. 2 of them are going to die immediately. As for the other 2, I haven't decided whether I should kill them or not. Han Shuo transmitted to the Cauldron Spirit while walking towards the area where Kaiser and Ericsson were. Before obtaining the cauldron of myriad demon, Han Shuo was already able to move unimpeded in this place. Now, he was even more so. Soon enough, Han Shuo arrived at the illusory boundary where Erickson and Kaiser were. While the two were searching for a way out, exhausted, Han Shuo's figure suddenly appeared from the boundless mist. Are the two of you looking for a way out? Han Shuo put on a carefree smile as he looked at the haggard and despairing Erickson and Kaiser. Anyone else would be just as despairing and haggard as they were after walking in circles in the same place for 9 days in a row. Han Shuo's appearance was like a ray of hope. The two battered and exhausted Erickson were suddenly startled. They looked at Han Shuo in amazement and simultaneously cried out, "How did you get here? Where did you come from?" "I came from the outside world." "Hee. The two of you look really interesting," Han Shuo replied in a calm and unruffled manner. "Brat, regardless of whether I can get out or not, I'm going to kill you first," Erickson said coldly and sternly after hearing Han Shuo's mockery. "That's great. I'm here to personally send you off. Let's see who dies first." Han Shuo laughed heartily. This was the perfect opportunity for him to test out his new realm of omen. Chapter 665. Every advancement in demonic arts would greatly enhance one's strength. After breaking through the 9 changes realm and attaining the omen realm, Han Shuo believed that his main body would be completely different from before in every aspect. Kaiser and Erickson had been lost in this illusory formation for 9 days and were utterly exhausted. This was the perfect opportunity for Han Shuo to take them down in one fell swoop. At the very least, with Cauldron Spirit around, not only could Han Shuo utilize the dozen or so mystical demons in the Cauldron of Myriad Demon, he could also use the demonic formations that had not been completely destroyed. No matter how one looked at it, it wouldn't be too difficult for Han Shuo to kill Kaiser and Erickson. Han Shuo was absolutely confident, but Kaiser and Erickson did not understand why he had so many trump cards. When they heard that Han Shuo would personally send them off, they immediately thought that Han Shuo had gone mad. Even a fool would know that a mere low god would die without a doubt when facing 2 mid-gods like them. How could he have any chance of winning? Haha. Erickson looked at Han Shuo as though he was looking at a dead man. His face was filled with disdain. He shrugged and said in a relaxed manner, "Come, I'm standing right here. Let's see how you're going to kill me." Heh, even if we've exhausted too much of our divine energy, it's not something a low god like you can act presumptuously against. Erickson, don't kill him in one go. Before you kill him, ask him how he got in here. Kaiser casually instructed Erickson as he closed his eyes and began to recover his divine energy without looking at Han Shuo. The two had been trapped for a long time without being able to find a way out. Han Shuo's sudden arrival had brought them a ray of hope. Erickson might have wanted Han Shuo to die first, but Kaiser was different from him. He only wanted to leave this troublesome place as soon as possible. After Kaiser's reminder, Erickson coldly groaned and said, "I don't need your reminder. I know what to do." The corners of Kaiser's mouth curved into a helpless, bitter smile. He shook his head and did not say anything else. Kaiser knew that Erickson was still holding a grudge against him for watching indifferently as Erickson was besieged 9 days ago. That incident had torn a tear in their friendship that would be difficult to heal. "Oh, you're that confident?" Han Shuo asked unruffled as he sized up Erickson smilingly. If he had not obtained the Cauldron of Myriad Demon and had not broken through to the realm of Omen, Han Shuo would have run for his life upon seeing Erickson. However, things were different now. Since Han Shuo dared to stand so fearlessly in front of him, he was naturally confident. Erickson stared blankly for a moment after hearing Han Shuo's words. He was a little puzzled as to why Han Shuo dared to stand before him and not flee. With that in mind, he couldn't help but secretly size up Han Shuo. Upon closer inspection, Erickson sensed the elemental energy of death from Han Shuo's body. Moreover, it was only the energy of a low god of death. There was nothing unusual about it. Erickson immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He stared coldly at Han Shuo and said, "Cut the crap. Tell me how you got in here, and perhaps I will grant you an easy death." Han Shua laughed in a carefree manner. Step by step, he walked towards Erickson and arrogantly said, "You don't need to think too much. You will be able to leave this place in no time." While Erickson was stunned, Han Shua's face turned cold. He added in a deadpan manner, "It's just that your divine soul will follow me out after I die." As soon as he finished those words, Han Shua's large hand grabbed at Erickson and thrust it straight at his chest. Erickson's face was filled with disdain. He looked indifferently at Han Shua's large hand coming at him. He could clearly sense the divine energy of death contained in Han Shua's hand. The strength of the divine energy was not beyond his control. Therefore, he wasn't worried in the slightest. Erickson stood as still as a mountain. The solid ice had unknowingly covered his body. He looked like an ice sculpture, cold and lifeless. His chest was glistening as though it was a natural armor made of solid ice. Inside the solid ice, Erickson's face was still filled with disdain. His facial expression was not affected by the solid ice at all. Han Shua's mind was calm and tranquil. His eyes were fixed on Erickson. The moment his large hand grabbed at Erickson, the demonic blades suddenly emerged. His fingertips grew into sharp blades and stabbed at Erickson's chest. All of a sudden, Erickson sensed an enormous and unknown energy from Han Shua's large hand. This energy did not belong to any of the 12 fundamental forces. It made Erickson's heart palpitate intensely. "Erickson, watch out!" Kaiser, who was recuperating his divine energy with his eyes closed, immediately shouted when he sensed the peculiar energy that suddenly appeared in Han Shua's palm. Unfortunately, Han Shua and Erickson were too close to each other. On top of that, Erickson's carelessness allowed Han Shua's demonic blades to land directly on his chest. Kaiser's cry of alarm was still a step too late. Crack! The solid ice armor covering Erickson's body suddenly shattered under Han Shua's demonic blades. Before Erickson could evade, Han Shua's demonic blades had already pierced through his heart and came out from his back. With his arm completely inside Erickson's body, the distance between Han Shua and Erickson became extremely close. Looking straight into Erickson's terrified and ice-cold eyes, Han Shua let out a sinister smile and said in a sinister tone, "How does it feel?" At the same time, Han Shua pulled his arm back a little bit. The demonic blades returned to Erickson's abdomen and rotated a few times inside his body. Amidst the bone-chilling sounds of bone fracturing, scarlet blood spurted out from Erickson's pierced body like a ruptured water pipe. Erickson was indescribably terrified. He wanted to break free from the state, but Han Shua's hand was firmly gripping him, rendering him immobile. "Stop!" Kaiser, who was recuperating his divine energy with his eyes closed, roared. A strong beam of light shot out from his mouth and shot straight at Han Shua's back. "Hee." Han Shua chuckled sinisterly in a low voice, as though he had long anticipated that Kaiser would seize the opportunity to attack. With a swing of his large hand that was holding Erickson, Erickson's bloody body was suddenly thrown towards the intense light spewing out of Kaiser's mouth. "Ah!" Erickson wailed like a ghost and howled like a wolf after being struck by Kaiser's strong beam of light. "See that? He wants to kill you too." Han Shua rejoiced in Erickson's misfortune. He thrust one of his arms into Erickson's body and lifted the still-alive Erickson up high, forcing him to face Kaiser. Perhaps it was due to excessive blood loss or the fact that Erickson couldn't tell what was going on due to his severe injuries. Erickson, who had his body pierced through by Han Shua's hand and hung high in the air, stared at Kaiser with eyes full of resentment. Han Shua knew that Kaiser's venomous eyes should have been aimed at him. However, Han Shua had forced those eyes on Kaiser. Kaiser had a guilty conscience. When he met Erickson's eyes, he panicked and hastily explained, "Erickson, don't listen to his nonsense. I want to help you." "Kaiser, you bastard. I'm going to kill you." All of a sudden, Erickson, who was hung high in the air by Han Shua, flew towards Kaiser with bared fangs and brandished claws. Kaiser was exceptionally flustered. He retreated in a flurry and explained repeatedly, "I really want to help you, Erickson. Are you crazy? Our enemy should be behind you." Bang! Kaiser, who was retreating in a sorry state, finally managed to evade Ericsson's brandishing claws with great difficulty. Suddenly, he felt a great force rush into his back. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his footsteps became disorderly. "Kaiser, you bastard. How does it feel?" Han Shuo smirked with a complacent look on his face when Kaiser turned around. It's you?" Kaiser suddenly realized that Han Shuo was using Ericsson's voice to speak. He turned his head to look at Ericsson and discovered that Ericsson was limp and paralyzed on the ground. He had lost all mobility. It was only then that he realized that Ericsson's brandishing claws was secretly manipulated by Han Shuo. Naturally, those words were also spoken by Han Shuo. "Of course it's me. Ericsson is already done for. Why would he still have the energy to shout? You are too foolish." Han Shuo ridiculed Kaiser smilingly. He watched as Kaiser coughed up large mouthfuls of blood after his sneak attack. Kaiser appeared very calm. "Master, that guy's soul energy isn't weak. He can form a demon general, cauldron spirit transmitted to Han Shuo." "Very good. What should I do?" Han Shuo immediately asked. "Very simple. Let me out and I will handle it." Cauldron spirit replied. With one thought, the cauldron of myriad demon whizzed out from above Han Shuo's lower abdomen. It instantly landed beside Ericsson, who was lying in a pool of blood, and enveloped him. The mouth of the cauldron of myriad demon was facing downwards. The runes on the cauldron of myriad demon started twisting and turning. As the master of the cauldron of myriad demon, Han Shuo could clearly sense that Ericsson's divine soul was sucked into the cauldron of myriad demon. The light dimmed, and the cauldron of myriad demon whizzed back to Han Shuo and entered Han Shuo's body. Han Shuo then looked at Ericsson, who was lying in a pool of blood. His divine soul was gone, and his eyes were white. There was no longer any possibility of resurrection. You killed Ericsson?" Kaiser's voice trembled as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He could hardly believe what he had just seen. Han Shuo shrugged and put on a somewhat sinister smile as he said, "Don't be surprised. You are about to follow in Ericsson's footsteps. Inside the cauldron of myriad demon, you will be able to keep each other company. You won't be lonely." "Do you think you can kill me?" It seemed that Kaiser still did not understand the situation. He felt that Han Shuo had killed Ericsson due to his sneak attack and the fact that Ericsson was gravely injured. Han Shuo laughed maniacally and didn't reply to Kaiser's words. With one thought, he twisted his hands and shot rays of demonic light from his fingers at the space around Kaiser, flashing and disappearing in the air. Kaiser initially thought that Han Shuo was going to attack him, but when he discovered that all the rays of demonic light from Han Shuo's palms were hitting empty air, he grinned and asked, "What's wrong? You can't even hit the target?" Han Shuo didn't answer, but continued to laugh. Demonic light continued to shoot out from his fingers, landing in the air around Kaiser like fireworks in an instant. Suddenly, Han Shuo stopped his aimless attack. He stared at Kaiser and asked with a mischievous smile, "Can you feel it?" "What?" Kaiser was stunned and somewhat baffled. "It's the trembling of space, you fool." Han Shuo was all smiles as he walked towards Kaiser step by step. The demonic blades in his hands were once again unfolded. Kaiser's expression changed drastically when he heard Han Shuo's reminder. He discovered that the space around him was trembling. The trembling grew from weak to strong, affecting his body and divine soul. He felt powerless and drowsy. Spatial manipulation was a method of attack in the Nine Changes realm. Han Shuo had comprehended how to use his energy from Cauldron Spirit. It was a good chance for him to try it out on Kaiser. The space around him was violently distorted like ripples on water. Under Han Shuo's watchful eyes, Kaiser's body was also contorted. Blood was flowing out of his 7 orifices. It was as though he was trapped in a giant whirlpool, powerlessly enduring all the blows. Very soon, under the influence of spatial manipulation, Kaiser, who was already exhausted and had suffered a sneak attack from Han Shuo on his back, had his body contorted. Bloody wounds began to appear on his body. Blood began to sprinkle down like a fine rain. The cauldron of myriad demon that had just returned to Han Shuo's body flew out again. It enlarged in midair and enveloped the dying Kaiser. A green light flashed and Kaiser's divine soul was sucked into the cauldron of myriad demon. Without the support of his divine soul, Kaiser's body turned into a puddle of blood under the influence of spatial manipulation. His bones were ground into bone powder and turned to ashes. Master, you will soon have 2 more mystical demons. Cauldron spirit transmitted after the cauldron of myriad demon returned to Han Shua's body. Not bad at all. Han Shua praised. Then, after thinking for a moment, he asked Cauldron Spirit, in your opinion, what are my chances of winning if I fight those 2 head-on without resorting to sneak attacks? Although Han Shua had tested his current realm, he was unable to ascertain the true strength of his main body through the 2 sneak attacks, in addition to the fact that Erickson and Kaiser had expended too much of their divine energy, and their concentration was much weaker than before. But Han Shua believed that Cauldron Spirit should be able to give him an objective answer. As expected, Cauldron Spirit kept silent for a moment, as though carefully weighing the pros and cons. After a while, it answered, Master, if the 2 of them were not injured from the start and their minds were not affected by the demonic formations, you would be able to easily kill any one of them. In a one-on-one fight, you, who is in the Omen realm, would be able to easily kill any one of them without borrowing the strength of your avatar or mine. If they were at their peak, it would be rather difficult for you to win without relying on external objects. But if you are as good at stratagem as you were just now, you would have a chance of winning. If you rely on my strength and I use my mystical demons to distract one of them, it would not be a problem for you to defeat the 2 of them. Among so many experts here, the only person who is resting with his eyes closed is the one you cannot defeat for the time being. Only after you have completely familiarized yourself with the Omen realm will you have a chance of defeating him. At present, even if you borrow my strength, you would at most be able to gain a slight upper hand. It is not very likely that you will be able to kill him. This is because I do not have powerful demon generals at my disposal. Also, your strength is limited, and you cannot fully utilize my strength. If we wish to kill him, we will have to rely on the demonic formations deployed by the exalted demon lord. According to Han Shua's secret observations, he guessed that Kaiser and Erickson were early-stage mid-gods. Dana was perhaps a little stronger than the 2 of them. Moreover, Dana seemed to possess a powerful divine weapon. Therefore, she appeared calm and unruffled when fighting both Kaiser and Erickson alone. The person who was resting with his eyes closed was old. According to Han Shua's understanding, old should possess late-stage mid-god strength. According to Cauldron Spirit's explanation, Han Shua came to a conclusion that his main body in the Omen realm, without borrowing any external energy, should possess strength similar to that of Dana, a mid-stage mid-god. According to Cauldron Spirit's words, after thoroughly familiarizing himself with the Omen realm, he would be able to defeat Old, who was a late-stage mid-god. Han Shua was incomparably pleasantly surprised when he learned of his true strength. Han Shua couldn't help but be excited that he, who had made great progress in demonic arts in just 9 short days, possessed such strength. Chapter 666. After the Cauldron Spirit collected Erickson and Kaiser's divine souls, Han Shua did not remain idle. He resumed his old trade of looting Kaiser and Erickson's belongings after their deaths. As his strength gradually increased, it had been a long time since Han Shua made a fortune from the dead. That was because his previous opponents were not worthy of Han Shua's efforts. Kaiser and Erickson were mid-gods. Han Shua believed that they must have some valuable items on them. Han Shua took out 2 space rings from the mangled corpses and put them away. According to the Cauldron Spirit, the 9th Realm Mystical Harvester would be completely destroyed within a short period of time. When the 9th Realm Mystical Harvester was destroyed, this place would undergo earth-shaking changes. If Han Shua did not wish to be implicated, he would have to leave this place as soon as possible. Dana, Bolton, and the others were important figures who would guide him to Elysium. Naturally, Han Shua couldn't let them die here. Otherwise, Han Shua would not know a single soul on Elysium, and it would be very difficult for him to reach Elysium in the future. Under the Cauldron Spirit's instructions, Han Shua flew towards the area where Dana and the others were imprisoned. Along the way, He wondered if he should take this opportunity to kill Old as well. He understood that if he couldn't kill Old inside the demonic formation, it wouldn't be easy to kill him once Old left the demonic formation. However, there was no deep hatred between him and Old. On the other hand, Kelly of the Druidic Order had some friendly relations with Han Shuo. The Druidic Order was Lancelot Empire's most reliable ally. On top of that, Old did not show any hostility towards Han Shuo. This made Han Shuo rather hesitant. With the Cauldron spirit manipulating the demonic formation, killing Old wouldn't be difficult. What worried Han Shuo the most was what would happen after Old's death. One thing for sure was that once Old was dead, the Church of Light, the Druidic Order, and the others would no longer know anything about the Ninth Realm Mysticaline Harvester. If those people couldn't receive any news about this place, they would surely come to Profound Continent again. When that time comes, who knows how much trouble they would cause. Cauldron Spirit seemed to know what was on Han Shuo's mind and suggested, "Don't kill this person for the time being. Let those people know that everything in this place has been destroyed and cut off their thoughts of exploring. That way, there won't be an endless stream of people coming here." After pondering for a moment, Han Shuo silently nodded. He too believed that now was not the time to get rid of Old. Old should be more valuable alive than dead. After making his decision, Han Shuo decided to let Old go first. While Han Shuo was pondering in silence, he followed Cauldron Spirit's directions and arrived at the stone forest where Donna and Bolton had been staying. After Han Shuo left, Cauldron Spirit had sealed off this blind spot. Not a single person was allowed to leave the stone forest for 9 days. The moment Han Shuo emerged from the layers of mist, Donna and the others who had been trapped for 9 days could hardly contain their excitement. Their eyes were glowing brightly. Li Wei cried out in surprise and excitement. "That's right. Brian, you are finally here. Do you know that we have been trapped here ever since you left? We couldn't get out even if we followed your method. Oh my God, I'm going crazy." Li Wei cried out as soon as she saw Han Shuo. "Let's go. I'll bring you out. After I left, this place changed. I was trapped here for a few days before I finally understood the rules," Han Shuo hastily explained. His face was still filled with lingering fear, as though he had just escaped from a dangerous situation. Cauldron Spirit unsealed the area. With Han Shuo leading the way, Donna and the others hastily exited the place. "Brian, you were also trapped here for a few days?" Donna immediately asked Han Shuo. "Yes, I don't know what's going on here. Many of the rules have changed. Everything that I could see clearly changed all of a sudden. It took me a long time to understand some of the rules again," explained Han Shuo worriedly. After looking at the towering mountains that formed the Ninth Realm Mysticaline Harvester, Han Shuo sternly said to Donna, "Look at those mountains. They look like they are on the verge of collapse. Let's not risk entering them for the time being. Let's come out and observe the situation first. What do you think?" Following Han Shuo's suggestion, Donna and the others hastily looked around. They discovered that the towering mountains seemed to be shaking and that deep rumbling sounds were coming from the depths of the earth. Donna's expression changed. She cried out in alarm, judging from the situation. "This place is about to collapse. Oh no, we have to leave at once. This place is too strange. It was already filled with danger when it was peaceful. Now that it is about to collapse, wouldn't it be even more fatal?" Bolton was truly frightened. "Big Sister Donna, I think it would be better for us to take cover for now." Li Wei was also fearful, and she unnaturally moved backward. Donna looked at the mountains in the distance. After thinking for a moment, she suddenly stomped her foot and shouted, "Let's go! Let's hide for now!" Donna, who had personally experienced the perilous situation inside, understood that there were life-threatening dangers everywhere. Even Han Shuo said that he couldn't understand the situation. She knew that without Han Shuo's help, there was no way they could protect themselves. Therefore, she resolutely gave the order to retreat. "Retreat from the direction we came from. Everything in this place is about to be destroyed. Many of the perilous areas are no longer useful. Follow me, I can guarantee your safety," Han Shuo hastily instructed. Based on Cauldron Spirit's description, Han Shuan knew that the ninth realm mystical harvester was on the verge of complete destruction. Dana and the others did not have any objections. They followed behind Han Shuo and rapidly headed in the direction they came from. With Cauldron Spirit's existence, all the demonic formations Han Shuo and the others were rendered useless. Han Shuo and the others passed through layers upon layers of demonic formations unimpeded. At the same time, Cauldron Spirit was secretly manipulating the demonic formations that had trapped Old all this time. Old, who was startled by the deep rumbling sounds, was looking around anxiously. He could no longer maintain his composure. The reason Old was able to close his eyes and recover his divine energy was because he understood that the strange formations only trapped him and could not threaten his life. Therefore, he was able to rest peacefully. However, the deep rumbling sounds coming from all directions and the violent quakes from the depths of the earth gave Old the feeling that the world was about to be destroyed. He was really panicking. He could no longer maintain his calm state of mind. He hurriedly looked for the last way out. Kelly, who was beside him, had a face full of despair. He gave up on his futile efforts and silently waited for death to come. Suddenly, Old discovered a blinding light. Old's heart thumped. He probed with his soul and immediately discovered a bright way out. Old was overjoyed. Without thinking too much, he grabbed Kelly and dashed out of the formation. As soon as Old walked out of the demonic formations, he raised his head and looked around. He discovered that the mountains around him were arranged in a peculiar manner. Boulders the size of millstones were rolling down from the mountains. The earth was like a monster that had been startled awake from its slumber. It became extremely violent and barbaric. Deep ravines were torn across the surface of the earth and devoured everything in its surroundings. Old knew that this was bad. He had no time to think about the strange phenomena around him. He dragged Kelly and flew in the direction that Han Shuo and the others escaped. Old and Kelly were a little too late. Enormous boulders were falling towards Old and Kelly like a dense hail. These falling boulders had been tampered with by Gu Tianxie, the exalted demon lord. The speed at which they fell was fast and ferocious. Old was exhausted from dealing with them. Bang! Bang! Several enormous boulders smashed onto Old's body in trajectories that he couldn't grasp. The boulders seemed to contain some sort of bizarre energy. Even a mid-god like Old couldn't withstand such a heavy blow. His body trembled and his feet staggered. He lost his balance and nearly threw Kelly away. "Lord Old, please leave by yourself. Don't worry about me." Kelly, who had been under Old's protection all this time, was very touched. He thought to himself, "It's really not easy for an exalted god who serves the goddess of nature to care about me so much." At such a critical moment, when Kelly saw that Old was struggling to defend himself, he couldn't help but think of Old. "If I can bring you in alive, I can also bring you out alive. Your devotion to the goddess deserves you to live on." Old gritted his teeth and spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with minced meat. When he realized that he could not avoid the falling rocks, he steeled his heart and no longer kept his guard up. Instead, he dashed out as fast as he could. He had no choice but to do so, because at this moment, the mountains beside him were on the verge of collapse, as if they would collapse at any moment. Even the rolling boulders were causing Old great pain. Once the mountains collapsed, Old believed that he would die. In his mad dash, Old was ruthlessly smashed by the boulders a few more times. His divine body sustained even more serious injuries. He was exhausted both physically and mentally. Old had never imagined that on a low-level material plane like the profound continent, these ordinary rocks rolling down from the mountains and rivers could inflict such heavy damage on his body. He felt extremely bitter in his heart. He finally understood why his ancestor would mysteriously disappear in such a place. Stumbling, Old and Kelly finally walked out from the crumbling ninth realm mystical harvester. When Old appeared before Han Shuo, Dana, and the others, he was in a terrible state. His body was swaying unsteadily. Bolton, Li Wei, and the others were startled and looked eager. They felt that this was the best opportunity to get rid of Old. "Are you all right?" Before Bolton and Li Wei could act, Han Shuo suddenly took a step forward and asked in a very friendly manner. "Han Shuo, with his back facing Li Wei and Bolton, was repeatedly gesturing with his hands behind his back. Donna, who was hesitating whether she should attack Old or not, saw Han Shuo repeatedly gesturing with his back facing them. She hastily stopped Li Wei and Bolton with her eyes and led Li Wei and the others to take a few steps back, putting some distance between them and Old, as though to show Old that they bore no ill will. Old, who was gravely injured, was ready to fight to the death. When he saw that Han Shuo had suddenly stepped forward, Donna and the others immediately retreated. His tense heart suddenly relaxed. He secretly withdrew the divine energy that he had been preparing to fight to the death and rapidly recovered the divine energy in his body. Old wasn't afraid of anyone in this place. However, having suffered all kinds of bizarre demonic formations, he was truly afraid of the environment. This was also the source of his serious injuries. At present, his body was extremely weak, and he wasn't confident that he could defeat Donna and the others. Therefore, he was rather nervous. We bear no ill will. Don't be nervous. Through Cauldron Spirit's observation, Han Shuo knew that Old's mental state was unstable and that he still had the strength to fight. Han Shuo also needed Old to stay alive and spread the news of this place's destruction. Naturally, he didn't want Old to die at this moment. That's good. I'm really scared. Old let out a low laugh. He looked thoughtfully at Han Shuo and felt rather puzzled. He couldn't understand why Han Shuo would suddenly stop Donna and the others. Could it be that Han Shuo saw that I'm still holding back? Impossible. Then, is Han Shuo trying to save me? That's even more impossible. Old was full of doubts. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound wave came from behind Old. Everyone's attention was drawn to the noises. They hastily turned around and discovered that in such a short period of time, several mountains and rivers had suddenly collapsed and the earth was torn apart. Amidst the soaring dust, earth-shattering noises could be heard from that area. Under their attentive gazes, the earth-shattering noises continued. Dust soared into the sky, sand and pebbles flew everywhere, mountains collapsed, and the earth was torn apart. Everything was being destroyed. Suddenly, Han Shuo's avatar of destruction inside the cauldron of Myriad Demon seemed to have comprehended something through the vision of Han Shuo's main body. It immediately quieted down inside the cauldron of Myriad Demon. Han Shuo's consciousness communicated with Cauldron Spirit. He discovered that the negative energy and soul energy within the avatar of destruction formed by the demon's layer edge had been completely cleansed by Cauldron Spirit. All that was left in the avatar was the purest divine energy of destruction. Han Shuo immediately realized that the avatar of destruction that cultivated in the Edict of Destruction seemed to have gained some kind of enlightenment after witnessing the scene of destruction in front of his main body. Ever since Han Shuo's avatar of destruction was formed, he had never suddenly gained such a wondrous enlightenment due to the changes in his environment. He was overjoyed when he discovered this change. He knew that Cauldron Spirit's opinion was correct. Only by removing the impurities would his avatar have a direct understanding of the Edict of Destruction. Overjoyed, Han Shuo's eyes were fixed on the destruction of the Ninth Realm Mystical Harvester, not daring to relax in the slightest. The Ninth Realm Mystical Harvester was personally deployed by Gu Tianxie, the Exalted Demon Lord, and brought Han Shuo from another universe. After accomplishing its mission, before it was destroyed, it brought Han Shuo one final benefit. As he stared ahead, he suddenly felt that the destruction of the enormous Ninth Realm Mystical Harvester seemed to signify his rebirth. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.